Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to hate it. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
Okay, so we have episode 509 today with a special guest, Will Cain, in the house. We're finally doing this.
What is up? I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, great having you here. We almost did this last time, but some got in the way. It wasn't you, it was me. But I'm glad we're able to make it work. Guys, we got a lot of stories to cover, a lot going on. We haven't responded, I think for a week, Rob, if I'm not mistaken, we haven't done a podcast to react to everything that's happened. And a lot has happened in the last week. Your friend, Pete Hegseth, got a job.
He did.
I don't know if you heard about it or not. He got this job, and it's a big deal. And a lot of people are giving him a hard time for the tattoos he chose to get. I want to get your thoughts on it. We got to get some commentary. We got a few people that are not happy about him getting a job. We have a few people that are very happy he got the job. But we'll talk about it. We got the right guy to talk about it. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, he's pissing a lot of people off. You know, they're getting upset at him. It's so bad that vaccine stocks took a hit, which is deeply concerning for those who own the stock. You got processed food stocks drop. And it's to the point that even Florida City votes to remove fluoride from drinking water. And Scott Jennings, which, by the way, is kind of becoming a star. I'm really liking Scott Jennings, what he's saying. Tom said it best. He says Scott was a guy they hired as a token conservative on CNN. They didn't realize how much of a fighter he was. And he's proven. Maybe we made a mistake hiring Scott, right? He pushes hard a little bit too much. He said, let's get to the real issue here. Scott Jennings shuts down panelists' attacks on Bobby. Alec Baldwin mocks raspy voice RF Kennedy Jr., on an SNL Open, which we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Trump's cabinet. Jamie Dimon was interviewed and asked about whether he got the job or not. And he said, I haven't had a boss for 25 years, and he's not starting today, meaning he was not interested in the job. Now, listen, that doesn't mean everybody believes Jamie said that, but we will talk about it and address that issue. Morning Joe co-host hold a face-to-face meeting with Trump for the first time in 7 years. Folks, either they're trying to be noble or numbers came out. I don't know if you saw the MSNBC numbers or not. They're not looking good. I mean, there's some small-time podcasters that are in the top 500 that are beating those guys. It's pretty embarrassing when you think about what's happening there.
Let's go with noble.
Yeah, let's go with noble. Let's go with noble. Yeah, that's probably what it is. For some of you guys that are single, some bad news came out. I mean, I want to be able to tell you this right now. And you're going to have to deal with it for the next 4 years. There's this movement going on called the 4B movement that could change America, according to Politico. No sex, no dating, no babies, no marriage. And it's the 4B movement because some of you voted for Trump. So just listen, 4 years is not a long time. Hang in there, but we'll see what happened with that.
So Trump's already reducing abortion.
IBM CEO on Trump, less regulation, more innovation is a win for business. Drill, baby, drill. Mining magnate, cozy enough to Trump. Rogan takes shots at Obama. And Rogan was actually pretty complimentary about Obama when I was on with him, but he took some shots at him. And it wasn't nice. But maybe he's got a good point of what happened in 2024. We'll talk about that. We'll play the clip. We got a top pollster, Ann Selzer, to retire after the bombshell Iowa poll ended in a historic miss. She's stepping away from the game. It's probably a good decision she's making. Sonny Hostin asks Eric Adams point blank if he embraced Trump in hopes of getting a pardon. We'll let you watch the clip and make a decision for yourself. Scott Jennings back at it again with another clip. By the way, for those guys that living in Chicago, Illinois, that you were worried about what Trump's going to be doing, don't worry about it. Governor Pritzker has promised that he will boost sex changes after decisive Trump victory. By the way, Pritzker, this is why you lost 7 states, because of dumb statements like that you think is going to flip. And people are going to say, oh, my God, I really want this guy to be president. What a little, say something like that. Zelensky, while this is happening, there's a war going on, folks. Zelensky says the Ukraine-Russia war ends faster with Trump. However, New York Times reported that Biden is agreeing to allow them to use the long missiles. And apparently they just did. And there's a reaction. We got to talk. This just happened overnight, I believe, Rob, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll talk about that as well. And a couple other business stories. that we'll get into. Ben Affleck, there was a clip that came out by Ben Affleck. I don't know if you saw that or not. I got to play it to you guys. Have you seen it or not? I thought it was sick.
I've read it. I haven't seen it in its own
you
words.
got to. It's better than reading it. I'll play it for you.
Great.
It's phenomenal to react to. Mortgages and buying houses. Who's funding new home purchases? Mom and dad, Axios says, and young adults are holding off on moving out of their parents' house. We'll talk about that. And another devastating news, Don Lemon leaves X. And,
Wait, what?
Yeah, he did. He left X, and he wrote a letter about it.
Big sacrifice.
Big
He was killing it on
He was. We'll talk
Is there
about
tissues?
it. Yeah, we'll talk about
Rob?
it. But guys, before we get into
He
it.
keeps leaving.
Before we get into it, I can tell you one thing that we're doing. In 2020, I'll never forget, we're doing our podcast. We had 47,000 viewers. Concurrent viewers, we had 6,700. We're at the office. We leave. I go home the next day. News comes out. Biden's probably going to be the president. Of course, it takes a few weeks. Everybody around me is panicking. What's going to happen? COVID, Biden, what are we going to do? We step back. We put a plan together. And the last 4 years have been the most ridiculous 4 years of our lives because we sequenced everything out. 15 moves, business, personal life, finances, all of it. Now that Trump's president, that same strategy that worked in 2020 should be different than the one we have in 2024. Tonight at 6 o'clock, I'm hosting a webinar called the No Matter What webinar. Tom and I will be sharing with you guys what we're planning on doing the next 4 years and some of the strategies that you ought to consider doing as well for yourself the next 4 years, especially when we're coming down to business planning season. Right now it's November 19th. January 1st is going to be here like in the next 6 weeks. And those of you guys that got big plans in 2025, planning starts now. Go to vtwebinar.com, vtwebinar.com. Put it in your calendar. It's only 5,000 people that can be on. We don't have it more than 5,000 people. We'll start at 6 o'clock. I'll give a PowerPoint presentation to you guys, and then we'll go from there. Having said that, Will, let's get right into it.
What's up? Let's do it.
Let's do it. Play the clip, Rob, with Pete Hegseth. If we can get into one of the clips. This is a peer of yours. This is a guy you work with. This is your buddy. He all of a sudden is being announced as getting this big job. Did you at all have any clue that he's getting this job? Did you have an idea?
Yes, I had an idea. I mean, I'm going to be straight with you. Yes, I knew that he was a possibility to be a part of this.
How long did you know that?
Well, look.
Was it a week, a month, 2 months?
I think months was the idea. But I only knew that Trump thought very, very highly of Pete Hegseth.
Got it.
And there was a possibility that after the election they should be talking.
So then what that tells me is that but was it for a job or was it like, I like you, let's stay close, let's talk? You know what I'm saying? Because those are two different things.
Trump, look, in June of 2024,
yeah.
Fox and Friends Weekend sat down with Donald Trump and had an hour-and-a-half long interview.
Okay.
And let's just take a moment to appreciate that. I know that you guys have done that at PBD. He sat down for what was scheduled to be a 60-minute interview and asked his people as we went along, as he's done on several shows, let's give him a little more time. Let's give him a little more time. And when it was over, he's like, I just let it run. I let it go. Don't edit it. It'll rate. People will love it. And we did on the Will Cain Show. Obviously, for TV, you have to edit it. You have to put it out in incremental chunks that people can consume. We ran it on the Will Cain Show. But when it was over, or actually during the show, while we're on air, he says, you know, you, Pete Hegseth, would be great for Secretary of Defense. You'd be amazing. Says it on air, right there. I'd love to have you. And then he says, I'd love to have all three of you. I'd take you all three if I could. Which, by the way, as of last night, he took my other co-host's husband, Rachel Campos Duffy, Sean Duffy, to be the Secretary of Transportation.
Amazing.
So what an upgrade from Mayor Pete to Sean Duffy. Great guy. So yeah, I mean, I think Trump was pretty open about his interest in Pete Hegseth.
Got it. So it's been public. It's not something that, even if it was kidding about it, the audience may for the first time be like, wow, he's really interested in him? Yeah. And now it's real. The job is real. Now, here's how the media reacts to it. I want to get your thoughts on it. I'll play a couple of these clips, Rob.
The Secretary of Defense nominee, Peter Hegseth, the Fox News commentator as well, because this is someone who, weekend host, important distinction. This is someone who, you know, is known to be a white supremacist, known to be an extremist, whose platform, whose book is basically about his opposition to the advancement of black officers to the top brass.
What's the other clip you got, Rob? Because this was fantastic. Do you have a better one? Let's look at this one here.
He's also under fire for some of his tattoos depicting religious symbols and phrases that fellow service members flagged to his superiors over concerns they're associated with white supremacists. Hegseth saying those concerns amount to anti-Christian bigotry, posting, "They can target me, I don't give a damn. But this type of targeting of Christians, conservatives, patriots, and everyday Americans will stop on day one at Donald Trump's Department of Defense." Hegseth's post notably not disavowing the supremacists who have adopted the symbolism, though he has in the past.
Now, here's a question. When you guys are done with your shows, and you're in the locker room changing, you're showering, shirts off, and you see the tattoos, what do you think about his tattoos?
So let me say this first of all. Okay, Pat, you have done this, Tom, Vinny. People in TV often say, "This is my friend, this is my friend." And the truth is, it means little more than I'm friendly with that person. Okay, so I'm going to be upfront with your audience. I'm upfront with my audience. I have this belief that do not feign objectivity where it doesn't exist. You have to start your relationship with an audience with the truth. And the truth is we have biases. Here's the truth. I'm not objective on Pete Hegseth, okay? I have a bias. He is a real friend of mine, not a TV friend. I have said, when I'm done here on this planet, I want him to be one of the guys that carry my casket. Now, because I'm not objective, though, or that I have a bias, doesn't mean I'm wrong. Because of this, I know the truth about Pete Hegseth. And this is an incredible, incredible man with the right values, a flawed man who's made mistakes in his life, but a good man who wants to live up to his values and has principles and dearly loves the United States of America. This tattoo issue is nothing short of defamatory. And I'm waiting for the army of lawyers to start attacking the mainstream media for what, look, I'm an attorney. I went to law school. For a public figure, the standard is malice or reckless disregard for the truth. That is malice. That is malice. Look, the picture you're showing right now, okay, that picture is when Pete is swimming across the Hudson River 3 miles with 100 Navy SEALs. I've done it twice with him on national television, on Fox and Friends. We air this swim. If that is some type of white nationalist symbol, why would he be blaring it across the news channel to a national audience, millions of people watching? That's the Jerusalem cross. That is a cross that's been used since the Crusades, since 1096. It's still used in Bibles. And I think he's right. For them to attack that right there as white supremacists is nothing short of defamatory, not just towards Pete, towards historical literacy, exposing yourself as an idiot, and towards Christians.
You would assume these guys that claim they went to the best schools would know what the meaning of that is. And then they come out and criticize it. I mean, look, we had him on, and we had a great time with him. You remember when he was on. It was a great conversation, very entertaining, fun, straight up, but also military guy. You want a guy to be tough, experienced. A lot of times, these folks don't realize that. What's his resume, by the way? He's got 2 bronze medals.
2 bronze stars.
2 bronze stars. He's got
combat infantry badge.
If you can
3 deployments.
3 deployments.
Helping veteran. He's an all-around stud.
So it's not like we're talking about somebody that hasn't. Now, by the way, I mean, to be fair with everybody, you get the job. Now you got to go prove yourself. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You got the job now. What are we going to do now? How's the market going to react to it? Forget about how the market reacts. Anybody that gets a job for the first time, all this, everybody's going to start taking shots at you. And then after the dust settles, takes about a week or 2. Now it's about getting to work and seeing what you're going to be doing. Tom, your thoughts?
First of all, I agree, because Cain don't feign. He's being very authentic here about his feelings, about his friend and everything, and bringing, I think, straight up testimony here. What I look at is the media. I mean, way, way, way back when I grew up, and I was I got my MBA, and I almost got JD MBA, but I didn't want to go clerk for a judge, and I stepped off. But I remember watching a movie called Absence of Malice, and it's talking about the exact standard you're talking about, that if there's no malice in what you report publicly, then there's no foul. But this is malice, and the media is attempting to do it. And this election is all about throw falsehoods and see if they stick. Project 2025. Trump is not part of that. Other people are, and they kept trying to throw that. Yeah. And what they're trying to throw here is that, that's a bad symbol. That's a bad symbol. To see if people will think only an inch deep and take it to heart and say, wow, this guy's got a tattoo that's a bad symbol. But what you said is absolutely correct. It's a Jerusalem cross. And what the media is doing is they are trying to defame that which they fear, and they're trying to find points of undermining during this this lame duck period for Biden, and during the ramp period, they don't have news anymore. They lost the election. They lost. They've got nothing to talk about, so they're making things to talk about. And this is the invention of negativity that's been part of their arsenal of attack through the election cycle. And now they're extending it to a decorated veteran that is not Secretary of Defense.
I'm not surprised.
He's been nominated.
I'm not surprised though.
No, it doesn't surprise me, and I'm calling it back out.
You know what shocks me though, that the left, all this mainstream media, they haven't learned their lesson. They've been to the Super Bowl election twice and they've lost. They're using the same plays, racist, this. And by the way, whose job is he taking? Lloyd Austin, who not only he had prostate surgery for cancer. He didn't report it. He didn't do nothing, which is a complete violation. That's a horrible chain of command mess up. And by the way, under Lloyd Austin, the military's faced 25% recruitment shortfall, record low, dangerous distractions like DEI. And I think Hegseth I don't think he said it, but somebody mentioned that he's going to come in the Pentagon and remind the Pentagon that it's about killing America's enemies, not freaking DEI and all this nonsense that's happening.
You know, I'm going to say it reminds me, but it's an actual playbook. So if we're being fair, they're pointing to 2 tattoos. This is one of them.
Yeah.
The other is Deus Vox. It's God wills it, which Pete has on his bicep, which is Latin and another phrase that's been around forever. Pat, you and I have talked. You remember me from ESPN. I'm going to tell you a situation that happened when I was at ESPN that this reminds me of. It's the OK symbol. Do you remember the OK symbol controversy? So kids play the circle game, which looks like the OK symbol, right? It's been around forever. And they attacked several different groups for this, but one of them was a graduate class at West Point, who they get a picture taken, and kids play the circle game. If I can get you to look at the circle, then I can punch you or whatever. A guy did it at the Cubs game behind Harold Reynolds, if you'll remember. And Theo Epstein, then GM of the Cubs, said he ran cold. His spine went with chills. That Wrigley Field was filled with white supremacists. They turned something benign to 99% of America, right? The OK symbol, into a sign of white supremacy because they found some internet rabbit hole crazy theory where someone had done it and associated it with white power. What they're doing is taking longtime symbols, in this case Christian symbols, and turning them into white supremacist. And that is not only, I do think, Tom, actual malice and defamatory, but
I agree.
It's dishonest, it's knowing what they're doing, and it's just crap reporting, horrific reporting.
Yeah. I mean, it's not working. What is important to look at this picture here, the peak on his biceps looks pretty good. So listen, Pete, if you're watching this, very impressive.
Very impressive.
Good for you.
He's definitely turning the wrist with the curly curls at the end.
But no,
those baseball biceps.
Look, I mean, the model is no longer working. Peter Thiel was on Barry Weiss, a great podcast they did. He said, the last time identity politics worked was in 2008. It hasn't worked since 2008. 2008.
Obama.
He's saying Obama. And here's why he said it worked in 2008. He made such an interesting point. He said the reason why identity politics worked in 2008 was because Obama could go up there and saying, I'm the black person you've been waiting to vote for. And then he can go and says, I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, straight, gay, and then he would go to, and the reason why he could get away with it in 2008 was because social media wasn't yet at a point where things would go
instant
and you'd be held accountable. Like what Kamala did in 2024, going up there and speaking different language, with the accents, and then going up there and talking to Muslims and saying this, and then going to Jews and saying that. Obama got away with that in 2008. She could get away with that in 2024. These strategies haven't worked. They have to completely change it up. And one of the questions that was asked is, Barry asked the question saying both Oprah Winfrey and Elon Musk made the same comment. If 2024, this could be the last election. If Trump wins, this could be the last election we have in America. Oprah said that. Musk said, if Kamala wins, this could be the last election we have. And she said, what do you think about that comment? Because as a person, you can't like a comment like that. It's too threatening. He says, the first time Musk said it, I was like, look, I don't know if I'm with you or not. He said, the more and more I went through it, the more I realized Musk was kind of right. Because if Trump would have lost this election 2024, they would have said 2016 was a fluke and Trump got lucky. But because Trump won 2024, now they get to say 2020 was a fluke and Biden got lucky.
Yeah.
It was such a profound moment, meaning now what took place Guess who lost all credibility in the room behind closed doors when everybody's waiting to see what he and she have to say? Guess who they are?
Is
Barack Obama
and Hillary?
and Michelle.
Oh,
They lost
Michelle.
all- You used to sit in a room and you'd say something Schumer, you'd say something Pelosi, you'd say something Hillary, you'd say something Bill, you'd say something. Everybody's like, Barack, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
The last one you go to, right? And I was like, hey, you guys just go live at your Martha's Vineyard type of stuff.
Yeah.
Your strategy didn't work. Massive failure. By the way, Rob, can you play the clip of Rogan on Obama? Because you got to realize, I'm talking to Rogan, and Joe says, look, let's face it, Obama was one of our best presidents we've had when him and I are, I'm paraphrasing, to now switching from that. That was just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe even a year ago, to now this message here. Go ahead, Rob.
We did trust the government. But there's this, which is such a weird thing to say. You know, I used to think it was the Obama administration, but boy, Obama during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
Boom.
Boy.
Really? Did you have a high opinion of him
Yeah,
before?
I did. Yeah, I did. Just as an intelligent person, a statesman, I felt like he's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change. You know, you think you're going to do something, and then you get into office, and you're like, oh God, what a fucking quagmire this place is. But watching him just straight up lie about Trump, the thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist, which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017.
Yeah.
You know, I think it worked back then. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think people believe it anymore. I think that we've gotten numb to all this stuff.
Well, it's the sky is falling thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
you cry
yeah.
wolf or whatever. It's like you guys can only call me a fascist so many times. I
impossible.
mean, like the New York.
Your thoughts?
That moment, the very fine people moment, I think might actually be one of the most, the biggest conversion moments for Americans in the past 10 years. It was for me. So I was at ESPN. What that moment was like in 16, 17? What was that? And when you are in sports like I was, and I've always been I was in politics before I went to sports, so I've always watched it, been involved in it. Rogan's talked about this, though. You have to dig deep. In order to get to the truth, it's not easy anymore. So if you're someone who's out there and you let the news wash over you and you accept headlines or what was previously acceptable media, you would have thought a certain thing about Trump. And so Very Fine People comes along and it's like echoed from every mountaintop. And you're like, wow, how could Trump, equivocate on this whole thing? And then it took just a little bit of digging, just a little bit, because all you had to do is extend the clip 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you're like, whoa, that is not at all. In fact, it's the polar opposite. It's 180 degrees different than what Trump was saying. And then that just started it. And you start going, whoa, if that's fake, what else is fake? And then, of course, after that, we have Bloodbath and Dictator for a Day and on and on and on and on. But once you had that crack in the wall with Very Fine People, then you started realizing the malevolence of the information that you're getting. And so then for Rogan to see Barack Obama, well after this has been debunked, because he's talking about in the past 2 or 3 months, Obama repeated the Very Fine People hoax.
Yeah, less than a month with the last one.
Yeah. So to see him repeat a lie that is a proven lie, a hoax, it's been debunked. Yeah, how do you go back in the same way and trust whoever Obama was?
Tom,
I think Obama damaged his brand. I mean, really damaged his
this
brand.
election.
Yes. He was called in like a fire extinguisher. The same way that Bill Clinton was held out of the Hillary election cycle. After the convention, show me where Bill was actually on active duty. He wasn't. He was in the reserves.
Yeah.
He was in reserves. And then they called Bill in, hey, you know what? This may be closer than we want. And remember, as we got within 3 weeks of the election, people are saying, man, the enthusiasm coefficient on Trump rallies versus the Hillary rallies, it started to worry Democrat strategists, but they were like, yeah, don't worry about it. We're just going to win this thing because Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, those are ours. They're always ours. And this time, they've similarly, like a fire extinguisher, they called Obama to come on in, and he didn't have the same impact. It was like he wasn't the same, didn't have the same, perceptible gravitas that he did. Remember when he would pull all those people at the Berlin Wall in 2009 and everybody like this, and they thought, wow, what a great moment for America, this man of color with all this. But now he wasn't pulling. And he wasn't coming across convincing, and he was applying that linguistic style that he does, that he used to have such effectiveness with, it wasn't sticking and it wasn't impressive. Even me, I was being objective, leaning back, saying, this guy's a shell of what he was. This is not real. It's like when you pay now a ton of money to go see, the Eagles on their.
I thought you were about to say when you pay a ton of money to Juan Soto.
No, you're going to see what I mean. When you pay a lot of money to see the 10th annual, this is the last tour for the Eagles, right?
Oh, those Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles. Right,
You're talking Philly.
And what happens is, those guys, sorry. And what happens is it just gets a little less climactic, a little less impressive as they go along because they're getting older and they're not the band they used to be. And I feel like that Obama lost his buzz.
So in Dallas, there's a church, and it's in. You're gonna know this church. It's in Plano. Used to be a massive church. They used to have a certain right, a patent towards something called PowerPoint that Bill Gates had to come and get from them. If you know where I'm going with this, and so I go to this church, and I'm watching this church. This place is so big, it's a zip code.
What?
Don't say it. You know which one it is. You should know which one it is.
Six Flags over Jesus.
So it's, you know which one I'm talking about, right?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You have to show me after because I want to see it.
It's a zip code. The church is a zip code. That's how big it is.
You can see it from space.
Massive.
On
Anyways,
satellite. Wow.
So when I go to this place, everyone's like, oh my God, you got to go to this place. And it's this, it's that, it's this. I'm like, okay, let me go to it. So I go to this church. And then we start going on Sundays. And then all of a sudden, when I'm going to this place, it's empty. And everybody used to tell me this place used to be jam-packed. The place is empty. So we'd go again, and we go again. And I said, listen, let's go there Easter. And we went on Easter. And we sat all the way at the back, because I'm not a member yet. I'm trying to find a church. We're going to Watermark.
I didn't know you lived in Dallas.
I lived in Plano for 5 years off of Preston. I lived right by Willow Bend area.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden I'm like, dude, this Easter service is the worst service I've ever been to.
Was it packed?
It was packed.
Okay, it's Easter.
But it was the worst service. Why was it the worst service? Let me tell you why. Who typically shows up to Easter service? Is it the regulars or the once-a-year guys?
No, the once-a-year.
Okay, and what's your job as a senior pastor? To try to do what? To convert them into coming once a week.
Yes.
Right? That's part of your job. This is your opportunity all year. And I sat there, and it was just scolding that Christians don't give enough money to their church anymore. Man. That's not the message you give that day. That's maybe 2 months later. That's maybe a month later. That's maybe, October, certain months. That's not that day. And I said, man, no wonder this place is not doing well, because you can't talk to the crowd in a scolding manner. And Obama started doing that. And in 2004, one of the greatest speeches ever given, he lost his sizzle, and unfortunately, he lost his following.
Real quick.
You see when he got called out, it was like he was just talking to a few African-American guys,
of course.
and he tried to go into mode, and the guy sitting down just called him out and wouldn't even get up out of the chair.
Back to this moment in time, you're talking about which one is the aberration, 16 or 20, and not to become the director of the Patrick Bet-David show, but Rob, I don't know if you can pull up my Instagram. Something has changed. If you want to talk about what the aberration was, you don't need an election result to show it. Something has changed in the last 2 weeks, and I don't know if you guys have felt it. Obviously, there was a pent-up, go to that picture of the MAGA gear, okay? There was a pent-up support of Donald Trump that was scared, hidden, and secret. This picture that I'm showing you here from my Instagram.
You're talking about 16.
No, now.
Yeah, now?
That is LaGuardia Airport. Wow. I fly into LaGuardia every week. Now, LaGuardia is nice now. I don't know the last time you guys have been to LaGuardia. It's nice.
Yeah.
When you go through security, there's a mall that you walk through, right? They've got the perfume. They've got the Yankees gear. I walk around the corner, Pat. There's a huge kiosk table of MAGA gear. And I'm not talking about just the inauguration gear. T-shirts that say, I voted for the felon.
That's sick.
Okay, what this is showing me is this massive pent-up acceptability of something that was painted as right-wing. And then, the Kamala Harris.
75. I would have gone 90.
That stuff's going to be in Africa next to the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl champion
for
gear.
sure, yeah.
They got to give that stuff away for free to where the Super Bowl loser gear goes.
It's not working. I mean, look, it's not working. Let's go to the individuals that got the appointment so far and get your thoughts on maybe which one you're most excited about. Outside, obviously, we've already talked about Pete. So Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, okay? Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. Attorney General, AG, Matt Gaetz. Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum. Health and Human Services, RFK Jr. Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins.
Amazing.
Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. Energy Secretary, Chris Wright. Commerce Secretary, contenders, there's a bunch of them right now, Linda McMahon, Brooke Rollins, a bunch of names. Then you got Department of Government Efficiency, right? DOGE, Elon Musk and Vivek. What a duo.
Yeah.
CIA Director, John Ratcliffe. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. UN Ambassador, Lee Stefanik. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff. EPA Head, Lee Zeldin. Solicitor General, Dean John Soar.
I was hoping I was going to get the call on that one.
By the way, that's a big position. Nobody knows about how.
Well, let's talk about it. I want to hear about it. FCC Chair Brandon Carr, I think that was just yesterday. Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. White House Counsel William McKinley. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Oh, I can't wait for
She's a stud.
Yeah, she
Communications Director Stephen Chung, who was here, by the way, that day when he came through. Assistant to the President Sergio Gore. Your thoughts and who excites you the most out of all these names?
Well, who excites me the most is actually the big names. It is for example, RFK. Because here's my belief. I don't think that we're on the edge of some cliff where the United States government collapses. I think this thing has become such a behemoth, it's uncontrollable. The incremental change on the margins doesn't get it done. Simple competency doesn't get it done. That's a Mitt Romney-esque vision of America, a Bain consultant. Let's just make sure we get some competence back in charge. And by the way, that would be great because obviously we don't have that today. But I want people who are disruptors. That's what I want. I want real disruptors that can effectuate real change. And even that we have to be a little bit skeptical. Can even an RFK make real change? Because as you pointed out earlier in the show, Pat, the lobby is going to be massive. The pharmaceutical lobby, the food industry lobby, they're going to fight tooth and nail against anything that is to be done by RFK. Same thing for Pete at the Pentagon. You're talking about $850 billion budget. Now, by the way, Pete can do three important things. Get DEI woke out of the military, turn it back into a meritocratic institution, refocus, as you pointed out, Vinny, the purpose of the United States military, which is to absolutely destroy our enemy.
100%.
It's not a social experiment.
Yep.
It's not the world's police force. It is laser focused on the mission, which is destroy our enemy. Yep. And then I hope, the Pentagon has missed, I know there's something we could talk about today, but 7 straight audits, Pat. 7 in a row audits. Meaning they can't even quantify how much money they are spending. They don't know where it is. Now, that's the biggest job of all.
And they laughed about it yesterday on a clip.
Who's they?
You see the woman from the Pentagon that actually
Yeah,
was,
she thinks it's a joke. She
was
$890
challenged
billion.
and she laughed about it.
Yeah, almost $1 trillion.
Was it Jon Stewart? Was it when Jon Stewart asked her about it?
That's insulting, obviously.
Her?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, she giggled. She giggled about, she's like, I don't know. That's not my...
3 minutes. Let's see.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse are not the same thing. So let's decompose
then
these
please
pieces
educate me on
Sure.
What
so an
the
audit is
difference
exactly what you just described,
Yes.
which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit or the fact that the DOD has not passed an audit is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Really?
That is completely false right there. So
what is
now
it
it's a question of it's suggestive that we don't have an accurate inventory that we can pull up of what we have where.
What? What do we...
That is not the same
Like in the
as
hands of the
saying
Taliban.
we can't do that because waste,
Or
fraud,
left
and
on
abuse
the
is
tarmac
This is real.
in
Look.
Afghanistan.
Look,
in my world,
Yeah.
that's waste.
Yeah.
How is that waste?
Yeah, look, she's
If
shocked.
I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you
Well,
are
we didn't
not
necessarily-
responsible.
Look at her.
But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And when there has been reporting, this is not. Look, I'm not saying this is on you, and that you caused this. But I think it's a tough argument to
I'm pretty
make
sure I
that.
didn't cause it.
An
but you're laughing about it.
$850 billion budget
so funny?
to an
That's-
It's not
organization.
so funny.
That's
This is
the
American
difference.
taxpayer dollars. This is deficit. This is future debt for our grandchildren. This is
Rob,
all this,
who's
and
that
this is
lady?
and this is
Who
like a
who
chuckle.
she?
That's actually, I've seen that clip. That's been around for a couple years, but that just goes to show the point how long we've been missing the audits
Years.
on
Yeah,
the DOD.
you just nailed it. It's 7 years.
I thought she was Deputy Defense Secretary Hicks.
That was a Kamala-esque laugh, meaning it wasn't about humor, Pat. Like, she wasn't laughing because she thinks it's funny. That's a defensive and embarrassed laugh.
Oh, I totally get it.
That's
I
a
still don't want to
deflection
see a
laugh.
I mean, to me, it's your job. Figure the whole thing out. Like, I mean, why are we spending all this money? But by the way, so in other words, I have a monthly board meeting with my investors who gave me $10 million. And they say, hey, Pat, what happened to the $10 million? You guys failed another audit. It doesn't mean we failed the audit. It means we just can't figure out exactly where the money went.
Yeah, the spreadsheet's
no
off.
shit. I gave you the money. I need to know where it went. I get it, but we didn't fail an audit. Those are two different things.
We didn't waste it, but where is
it?
I can't say.
We can't say it's a magic
By the
trick.
way, this is why when you put a bunch of free market guys in, they don't speak her language.
Right.
Her language is no accountability. The language of capitalism is 100% accountability. You ran out of money. Guess what? Go raise money, go raise debt, put some of your own money, or file bankruptcy and shut down the business. What do you want to do? Those are your options. Here it's like, no, it's not a big deal. Why are you saying something like that 7 times in a row? Who's your favorite appointment, Tom, out of all these folks that we just talked about?
Really, my favorite, I have to say, is RFK Jr. because of the ability to make a few small moves that will be very disruptive. My wife's a teacher. We've strong feelings about the studies that have been out there about the amount of food additives and the things that are in processed food and the impact on attention deficit and things for kids. And I believe he's already making an impact. I love RFK right where he is because he can do just a couple things that I think are going to change. This week we read about the box of Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops in Canada. So say what we will about Canada, and there's a lot we can say about that maniac and everything up there. But if you look at the Fruit Loops in Canada and the Fruit Loops in the United States, where the color is on the product comes from chemicals in the United States. That has to be natural sources in Canada, and they're not as brightly colored. Why is that? Because somebody in Canada said, you know what, these red dye chemicals, I don't think they should be in what's basically a children's food. And so I think there's going to be a lot of steps, but I'm excited about RFK. I believe he's a true believer. I believe he's a researcher. I believe he's informed. And I don't think he's just, he's more measured like an attorney than bombastic running to the microphone. And so I love that pick for its disruptive ability. I also really like Tulsi Gabbard right where she is.
Yeah, and again, piggyback is I have two, Tom. One of them being RFK, and what people aren't understanding, it's like where's the state of the country's health right now? Where are we? We're the most obese we've ever been. Mental health is out of freaking control. Right. The guy that's in right now, and they're talking about he doesn't have experience. Who's the guy that's in right now? Xavier Becerra. He's a lawyer with zero healthcare background at all, and that's why we're in the state that we're in. And who's his assistant? Rachel Levine. A biological male who pretends to be a woman who actually was pressured medical organizations to eliminate age restrictions for transgender surgeries. That's who's in charge of our health. And that's number one. So I can't wait for him to come in. And he has freaking blood in the game. The guy's father and uncle were killed. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to represent our country. And then the other one,
Preach.
I think, is Merrick Garland leaving. Matt Gaetz coming in. Merrick Garland, one of the worst. Him and Biden weaponized the DOJ to go after parents at school board meetings, labeling them terrorists, okay? And Catholics who are pro-life, all right? That's my favorite one, Pat, is RFK and Merrick Garland going bye-bye and Matt Gaetz coming in.
We have to give respect also to Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, but it's not an official department yet.
Yeah, they will be.
This is what I'm excited about this. Obviously, we need efficiency in government. But my question is, what's the hammer? That's the big question on that. We can't just have a study. We did that in the 80s with Reagan. We can't just come back with, oh, these are all the inefficient branches of government, and here's our suggestions, Congress, go act. There has to be an enforcement mechanism.
They're not that type, though. They're both operators. Play this clip, Rob. They're both operators.
I want to get your take on how this begins. Sure. What are you looking to cut right from the beginning?
So first is we want to go right in through executive action to do the failures of the executive branch that need to be addressed. Because the dirty little secret right now, Maria, is the people we elect to run the government, they're not the ones who actually run the government. It's the unelected bureaucrats in the administrative state. That was created through executive action. It's going to be fixed through executive action. Think about the Supreme Court's environment over the last several years. They've held that many of those regulations are unconstitutional at a large scale. Rescind those regulations, pull those regs back, and then that gives us the industrial logic to then downsize the size of that administrative state. And the beauty of all of this is that can be achieved just through executive action without Congress. Score some early wins, and then you look at those bigger portions of the federal budget that need to be addressed one by one. So I think that's one way to think about this is how can the president of the United States, who's been elected with a historic mandate, actually do the thing that the voters have voted for. They haven't voted for incremental change here this time, Maria. We have voted for sweeping change, and the voters actually deserve to get it. And we're focused on how to do that as early and as quickly as possible.
So President-elect Trump just said on that soundbite that you're going to make recommendations. So you're going to make recommendations in terms of where to cut after all that you've just said. Then what?
Look, we're not going to be cutting ribbons. We're going to be cutting costs. And so those recommendations are going to be on a real-time basis. But I do want to take a big step back and understand, for people to understand the scope of this problem. Over $500 billion that's spent every year right now was not even authorized by Congress in the first place. The Pentagon has just failed its 7th consecutive audit, nearly $1 trillion of budget. They can't even tell you where it goes. So I think part of this is exposing for the public the extent of that rot and waste, but then to take steps first through executive action and then laying the groundwork for broader change through legislation.
So not to take too much. I was with Maria that morning. She was having Vivek on. I said, please ask him that. This is what I'm talking about, the hammer. I said, so the then what? Vivek lays out executive action, regulatory stuff. That's how they can get a lot done. Here's a humble suggestion. Elon Musk has what? What are we at now? $350 billion, something like that?
Yeah, he's up there.
$1 billion in primary fund support for any challenger to a congressman who does not support real effective change through legislative action. Some of it is going to have to come down to legislative action. Power of the purse is in Congress. You can do executive action, as Vivek lays out. You can go to the Supreme Court with your Solicitor General and try to challenge the constitutionality of a lot of these things, but you are going to have to get action done through Congress. And you got to have a hammer with these guys. And that hammer is losing an election and Elon perhaps funding challenges.
You just mentioned Solicitor General. Why don't you share in straight up terms for all the people that are listening the importance of that position? Because that's not a position people hear about and they don't understand, but it's the gatekeeper to our Supreme Court.
Well, you think it's the Attorney General that would do this, but he's got a bigger job to handle. The Solicitor General is just the guy that goes right there in front of the Supreme Court and makes the case. He argues. So I don't know if you've ever listened to him during Obamacare, big ones. They stream all that. The Supreme Court,
C-SPAN.
Yeah, and he's the guy you're going to hear arguing it. So he makes the case, makes the oral arguments in front of the Supreme Court. I think I have enough experience dealing with Stephen A. Smith and others. I think this could have been my job.
But that's a big deal. The right cases get in front of the court, and now we have the right court to hear it.
Great. But again, when you hire doers, things get done. But they have to also learn it's slightly different than business. In business, you make a call, you call the shot, people move. Yeah. In politics, you can't call and it gets done. You got a certain process you got to go through where the speed is slower. So how they adjust as entrepreneurs in a very slow business and how they get it done is for Elon to get up there and say, oh, really? You want to do this? No problem. Hey, this guy here who's a congressman in this area, don't reelect him because he's going to have that kind of power. You do not want that hammer to come to you, which he's going to be doing. By the way, the one job that I think we're not, maybe there's plenty of great jobs that we're talking about, very important guys that are in here. I think the chief of staff is the person that's in your ear that you're talking to, where you get to ask the question of, what do you think? What do you think about this person? What do you think about that person? The way that she set it up to say, look, I don't need any detention. I don't need to speak on stage. But allow me to close the door. They have to come through me. Don't keep that open door policy the way you did in 2016. Let me flush some of this out.
Susie Wiles.
Susie Wiles. I think she is.
She's so understated. You do know who her dad is, right?
Of course, Summerall. Yeah. But when you are an operator, a type A, a D on the disc, and a guy that gets stuff done, and you find a Susie Wiles, it's life-changing if she's the right person that you trust, things get done, and the right decisions made. By the way, do you know what the budget is going to be for Bobby? $1.5 trillion. Do you know who reports to him? FDA, CDC, NIH, Surgeon Attorney General, if I'm not mistaken. All of those report to him. Oh, wow. Which means the new Fauci has to go through him, which means if he really wanted to investigate and find out, he's officially a guy that can pull it off. And by the way, Rob, can you pull up this chart? These two charts, if you can pull up, I just texted to you. So this is how much money we spend in healthcare every year compared to everybody else out there. Look at us. Jeez. We are all the way at the top. 17.8% of our GDP goes to healthcare spending. Look at everybody else. You see right there, the lowest one's Korea. Okay, you see 8.8%. We're at 17.8%. Our 17.8% is $1.5 trillion. You would assume if we spend more money than all of these guys in healthcare, the American people would be living longer, right? I mean, that's just, you invest more, we should be living longer. Rob, can you show the next picture that I texted you? So watch this one here. This is us.
Wow.
Look at where we are. 70.
Which one are we on that?
All the way at the bottom. We are all the way at the bottom.
We're the dying breed.
We are the dying breed.
And going down.
77 years old. Look at everybody else, by the way.
Japan is going.
84. Korea, 83.5. And they spend 8.8. We spend 18% of our GDP, and we're at a number like this. By the way, just in 1980, the discrepancy between us and the average around the world was 0.9, meaning we lived 0.9 years less. 45 years later, 44 years later, we're living 5 years less. So everywhere else, they're living longer. We're living 5 years less than everywhere else in the world. So then the question becomes what? Where the hell is this money going into? Is it the lobbyists? When you go through all these things that you look at, these foods that are not allowed in EU, in Russia, in other countries, but we're allowing it here. Why are we allowing some of the cereal, ketchup? The way fries are made in U.S. versus U.K. You ever seen this, how we make it here? Rob, can you pull up McDonald's fries made in U.S. versus U.K.?
And where they store the potatoes. Did you hear about where they store these potatoes? Oh, with the chemicals, and they house them for weeks on. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Just go to the left one right there. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, yeah, if you can. Okay, check this out. This is us versus UK, all right? Look at the amount of preservatives we're putting in. Look at what they're doing. Simple. You go to...
And then we're still both using the oils, the vegetable oils, instead of the beef tallow from the old days.
No, we are, meaning even UK is using some of that. But the point is, if Bobby gets in and he starts saying, no, we're not going to be doing this. No, we're not going to be doing that. No, we're not going to be doing this. Lobbyists are officially having to find a way. These companies are going to have to spend a lot of money to go after Bobby and those guys, because when you look at the stock right now, what do you see with the stock? Here's what you see with the stock. Vaccine stock hit by Bobby Kennedy nomination. Rob, do you have the clip on this, or is that an image they were going to show? Because it's yellow on this.
I also have a clip.
Can you play the clip on this? Sure. Vaccine stock. Why would vaccine stock take a hit?
Oh, weird.
It's interesting, right? Play this clip, Rob.
Shares in global vaccine makers fell sharply on Friday. Markets were spooked by US President-elect Donald Trump's pick to run the Department of Health and Human Services. He's chosen Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has previously spread misinformation.
Here we go.
There it is.
Kennedy, who is a vaccine skeptic, has been criticized for making false medical claims, including that vaccines are linked to autism. Several medical scientists on Friday said they were alarmed that vital vaccination efforts could be undermined. Shares in Britain's GSK were down over 3%.
Stop it right there. You got another one here. Processed food stock drops after RFK announcement. Stock of major processed food companies dropped significantly after Bobby Kennedy was picked as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Nestle and Kraft Heinz reached 52-week lows, while PepsiCo fell nearly 4%. Coca-Cola dropped 1%. General Mills dipped 2%. Campbell's Soup dropped 3%. Trump described Kennedy's appointment as a step to combat the industrial food complex. Industrial food complex and its deception, misinformation, and disinformation on public health. Kennedy criticized U.S. food safety standards, pointing out that the additives like potassium, bromate, and brominated vegetable oil banned in Europe are still allowed in the U.S. and stated, enough is enough. President Trump and I are going to stop the mass poisoning of American children, accusing Democrats of neglecting to address these issues despite their healthcare platform. Pretty wild to see this taking place.
So you've had smart people on this show. I know that. You have them every week. So you've heard a lot of this. This is a vicious cycle that we can analyze. How is it possible that we're spending more percentage-wise GDP on health and getting worse results than everyone else? First of all, it's the input. It's the food that's making us sick and obese. And then we do not actually have a health-based society. We have a medicinal-based society.
Bingo.
Once the problem is there, we treat it with pharmaceuticals. Get this medicine, get that medicine. And I'm sure if we went around this table, we're all guilty of it in some degree. We're taking something for some reason from vanity to what's prescribed as health to us. And that is market industry countrywide. And that cycle, by the way, is not virtuous. It's not perpetuating health. Get sick, get fat, take this medicine. It feeds a beast of money that does not produce real health outcomes. That's what RFK is tasked with. Look at that cycle right there.
Tom.
Well, you know what's interesting is the stock market is based on subscription. Whether you believe it or not, it's based on subscribers. Now, you may have a contract for your cell phone. You may have a contract for your cable TV, but all brands and companies want recurring revenue with the emphasis on recurring because that's how you drive the stock market. And this medicinal-based society, and I love the fact that you called it that, Will, is to create subscribers. Not cured people, not healthy people. I want to create a diabetic subscriber for life, that you'll wear the thing and it'll meter your insulin for life. Don't worry about your weight. Don't worry about health. Don't worry about seeing if maybe your health-based diabetes can somehow maybe be reversed if you were to get more healthy and then find out if you could be at a recovery point and what would your true diabetic status be at that point. You know, it's possible, not impossible. Instead, we want subscribers. And so the pharmaceutical industry wants subscribers. They want a pill for your ill, and they want America to be in the mindset of two things. One, it's not your fault. We'll get a medicine for that. And two, the microwave society. I want instant gratification. I want it to fix. No problem. We have a pill for you. So that's the way it is because...
You know what the perfect drug that illustrates this is? And I don't begrudge people that are taking it. It's Ozempic. It's the perfect example of this cycle. That one drug. Oh, the shit we fed you made you fat. Here's a drug that will now take the fat away.
Yeah.
Magic just keep paying this baby.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way,
exactly. And that's the reason I use the
model
diabetic
today.
example.
So many people are selling it, and there's different companies. It's not just Ozempic. There's
multiple brands.
Multiple brands that are selling it right now. It's so popular across the board. So many people you see, like you haven't seen it for 3 months. You're like, why did this go in? How did you get your cheeks?
You notice nobody says anymore, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, I know.
Like, what's your exercise routine? It's like stolen valor in war. Like nobody says, what's your diet and how you exercise? And we just kind of have to walk around going, could be the pill or the shot.
What's really interesting is I saw the two clips that just banged around in my head because I'm weird. Number one, you saw Qatar say, Muslim Brotherhood, get out. Because as soon as he's inaugurated, we're going to have trouble. That is a pre-reaction. That is Qatar saying, hey, we're small. We're not like Saudi. We got to get positioned here. Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas, get out of my country because I don't want trouble.
Right.
Kraft Heinz pulled Lunchables. Lunchables have been put. Remember those old things? Look at this. Because of the sodium and chemical content and stuff, and Consumers Reports came out and said, there is nothing that resembles healthy food in this thing. And Bobby Kennedy gets announced. And so what are they doing? They're pulling it. Why? They're pulling it in advance so that they can get the market ready for the adjustments they have to make in revenue because they're pulling a major product. But there is no difference between what the CEO of Kraft Heinz did and what the Prime Minister of Qatar did. Trump is coming, change is coming, and they're pre-reacting.
No, I just hope he takes care of himself, Pat, because think about it, you're going after Big Pharma is no joke. The food is no joke. And I think the reaction of the American people and these institutions, because some people are getting mad, like he's going to come in and change the fries and and it's like, it's almost as if they have Stockholm syndrome where they've fallen in love with the abuser, which is the government and everything, and now they're defending these people.
And we're addicted.
They're addicted to it. If you try to take Ozempic or any of this stuff away from people, they're going to lose their minds.
By the way, here's what's wild. This is Bobby, RF Kennedy Jr., right?
Yep.
You know on what show? With Morning Joe.
Really?
Back in the days.
What year is it?
Scarborough Country. Okay, with MSNBC. And they're talking about autism. By the way, you could do this back then. You couldn't do it during COVID. God forbid you brought it up. I don't know how many. If I was to tell you we got 5 strikes on YouTube on autism, I'm giving you a low number. And I think 3 of them I got because I had him on multiple times and a couple other guys. If you even had the dispute or the argument 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, YouTube was not having it. Rob, play this clip here from them having a conversation. I don't know what year this is, Rob, if you can tell us what year this is, but it's quite a while ago. Go ahead.
My son, born in 1991, has a slight form of autism called Asperger's. But it seems, and again, when I was practicing law and also when I was in Congress, parents would constantly come to me and they'd bring me videotapes of their children, and they were all around the age of my son or younger.
The generation,
so something happened in 1989.
Exactly. The generation, what happened was the vaccine schedule was increased. We went up from receiving about 10 vaccines in our generation to these kids received 24 vaccines. And they all had this thimerosal in them, this mercury.
Way more now.
And nobody bothered to do an analysis of what the cumulative impact of all that mercury was doing to kids. As it turns out, we are injecting our children with 400 times the amount of mercury that FDA or EPA considers safe. A child on his first day that he's born is injected with a hepatitis B shot. Under EPA guidelines, he would have to be 275 pounds to safely absorb that shot.
And yet we're just constantly pumping our kids with these vaccines.
Look at him.
What happened to Joe?
What happened was that in 1988.
Now, pause that, Rob. Wow. And if you can do me a favor, Rob, with this is a perfect transition into it. If you can go to Morning Joe, the clip that's on Twitter, if you go onto my account, the one that shows the before and after, Rob, the ones that are right next to each other, just go on Twitter, you'll see both. A clip came out that was perfect because you can see them, how they were speaking about it then and how they're speaking about Trump now. If you can make this bigger, Rob, so we can all see it, perfect. Go ahead and play this clip. Watch this, folks.
That the news network that is most critical of him should be taken off the air. This is not a reach. I could go back and talk about Nazi Germany, and I do it without any concerns whatsoever. And if people can't start drawing the parallels, well, you're just stupid, or you have your head in the sand, or you're one of them.
Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. Yeah. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues. Really? And we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications.
Neither did your
My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly
disagreed. And just go 2 tweets down, by the way, to be like, are they doing this because they just want to go a little bit lower, Rob? Yeah, if you can just go lower, and right there. This is from Glenn Greenwald, okay, that just came out. Lots of articles on that. MSNBC audience has completely collapsed, disappeared once Kamala lost, and the got disillusion, but the full extent is shocking. The primetime show can't even get 75,000 people watching in their key demos. Weekend won't even do 30,000. Click on this thing so we can see it, Rob. If you can zoom in a little bit so we can see both.
You can triple MSNBC and CNN together, and it doesn't equal Fox.
You can triple CNN and MSNBC together, and it doesn't equal Fox.
Correct.
That makes sense right there. If you put Melbourne Blitzer 130 times 3 is 390. That still doesn't beat Brett Baer. You take Rita Burnett.
Waters. Look at Waters.
Waters is 568, so 150, 160. Nope, it's 480. It still doesn't beat it, and that's Hayes and Cooper. Keep going lower, Rob. I mean, Tom, when you look at these numbers, 62. Where is Morning Joe?
That's just primetime right there.
That's primetime is what it's showing. Got it. What do these numbers, when this happens, I'm curious. You're in it, right? You're within Fox. You guys are not accustomed to winning. You've been winning and dominating for a long time. So you guys don't know what it is when your numbers lose.
Well,
but what would it be like? I guess what I'm asking is, what do you think is going on in there for them to come out and say, we got to go meet Trump? Is it their decision, or did the boss say, if you don't go and make it good with us, we got to discontinue the show?
I've got a couple of thoughts on this. You brought up a guy. I've never met this guy, Scott Jennings at CNN. Never met him. Really, really impressed by Scott Jennings. And say that coming from a place of experience. I've done this. I was at CNN for 5 years. I was at ESPN for 5 years. To be outnumbered, I actually think it's really fun to sit at a table. If you three guys all disagreed with me, it'd be a ball. We'd all sit here and argue and debate. Pat likes it when I'm in that mode with Stephen A. Smith. Scott does it so well. He does it so well. He had a clip, and I think you have it, but he had a clip arguing with John Avlon about why the medical, to our last conversation, industry lost so much credibility. And Avlon talks about disinformation, this and that. Like, no, they lost their own credibility by giving us all bad information through COVID, right? By continuing to look into our face and lie.
Is that it? Is that the
That's
clip?
it. I don't know if you want to
play the clip. Play the clip, and then I'll come
Is
back.
that
Being intellectually honest, there's really no good reason why Bobby Kennedy, RFK Jr. should be HHS secretary. An advisor, a confidant, somebody who talks to the president and advises, but there's no managerial experience in his resume. There's nothing that says he is qualified to do this job that is in charge of the health of all of us, all these different lanes. If he has views and has insights around food sources, around vaccines, then those should be given in advisory roles.
Why?
Because
what were the qualifications of the previous ones?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to always remember that you put yourself. Say that again?
What were the management qualifications? I mean, Xavier Becerra.
I'm not talking about the previous. I'm looking forward.
But you're calling into question whether he could actually do this job, and I think it's
absolutely. I think America is now, and I think
it's important to discuss it because Xavier Becerra was just a lawyer and a politician with no management experience.
So does two negatives, two wrongs make a right?
Sylvia Burwell was a Walmart lobbyist. Donna Shalala was a university person. Look,
RFK Jr. is a nut.
The fact.
Oh, look.
Okay, so that's different than what you just said. You just said he doesn't possess the requisite managerial experience.
There you go.
But then we get to the real issue here, which is you want to insult the man, which is your right to do because you opposed him in the election. But you, Doctor, are raising the issues that he has been raising, and I think they're appropriate questions to raise. I don't know whether he can be confirmed or not. The vaccine stuff at the table is obviously going to be the flashpoint of this hearing. But I'll tell you one thing. This whole issue of the CDC and these public health agencies, look, public trust in the health regime in this country is as low as it's ever been.
But why?
It's because of COVID.
Right.
Because of school closures. Because of mask mandates. Because this country was... But let me just finish. Because this country was drugged through a bunch of condescending and heavy-handed mandates that all turned out to be garbage, and that's why it's low, and the questions are valid.
And RFK is the answer to all of that.
Yeah, but RFK helped promote the assault on the CDC that lowered the disinformation that led to more than a million deaths, Scott. More than 1 million deaths in the United States, higher than any other industrialized nation per capita. That's the result of failed policies, the demonization of the conspiracy theories.
Whose policies?
All right, under the Trump administration.
John, let me So Pat, after an election, Fox's ratings went down in 2020. We need to be open and honest about that after Trump lost. So there's a depressed effect. People that lose elections get depressed and tune out. You don't want to watch when your team loses on Sunday night. You don't want to watch First Take on Monday morning. But if you win, let's hear it, baby. Let's get after it. So some of this for CNN and MSNBC is that. But the more important part is what's being talked about in this clip. Loss of credibility for the medical establishment, loss in credibility for media that lied to you for 4 years. Yep. I will hope that this audience that watches CNN and MSNBC is asking themselves serious questions about their information bubble because they have received nothing but misinformation and lies.
Yeah, and by the way, did you see Joe Scarborough's face? None of them wanted. You think he wanted it? He looked like he was dying inside. That's probably the top Rashida Jones, right? Is she CEO of NBC, whoever it is, they were told to go there, and you nailed it, Pat. 50% drop. But listen, I'm not going to forget. I'm not taking that. Those people, especially these two, with that rhetoric, causes somebody to go on a roof and be like, you know what? He's Hitler. I'm going to shoot him in his head. Those are the people that are responsible for shit like that. Sorry for my language. And I hope that they're going to fail regardless. No matter what. What are they going to do now? Start reporting positive news, Pat? Are they going to start reporting, hey, Trump's actually not Hitler? It's not going to work, bro. We're not going to listen to it.
Look, there's two things going on. One is there is an underlying reality that's happening is that there is a technology shift and a viewership shift happening among all the viewers. They're turning to streaming. They're watching online. They're watching over the top. They are not locked into a cable subscription and just watching the big four or jumping around the two that they like. That is real, and it's changing the number of viewers that are available to MSNBC and the cable cable nets in a traditional form. The second thing that's happening is they're losing their credibility. So there's already a shift in where the subscribers are going. So they have to make a technology shift in where they're going to be and how they're going to present the shorter clips, the shorter stories, rather than just 2 hours of couch potato watching. That has to happen. But now you've got Morning Joe. The expiration date of his brand is here. It's upon us.
Let me break this down for you. Here's how it works, Vinny.
Yeah.
There's one thing you can't ever beat, okay? You know how you go into the ocean and you think you're stronger than the ocean?
Yep.
What ends up happening?
It gets you every single time.
I tell my kids, I said, no matter, you can bench 1,000 pounds. The ocean doesn't care.
You're right.
It does. You can squat 1,000 pounds. Yeah. The ocean says, really?
Okay.
Come here, Mr.
Mother Nature is undefeated.
Undefeated, right?
Yeah.
You can try to beat a lot of different things. You can't beat capitalism. Listen, you cannot. It's just how it is. You can for a few years. Eventually, competition's going to expose you. Why does the market watch people? Think about it. Take anybody across the board. Go Stephen A., go you guys, go MSNBC, go CNN, go podcasters, go anybody. Pick any talent you want to go, right? It comes to a few different things. One, personality is attractive.
Yep.
I don't have to agree with you, but I watch a lot of people I disagree with because they have an appealing personality. You're like, you know what? I like this guy.
Yeah.
He's cool, right? Stephen A. and I, we'll have the conversation politically, but I like to watch him. His personality, to me, I like it. Some people may not. I like watching Stephen A. 2, likability. Do you like this person? I like this person. They don't come across, either you're stupid, and let me tell you, okay, got it. So that's not likable. 3 is knowledge. Do you have some know-how? I'll watch Tom. Tom's got a lot of know-how. Interesting, Tom. That's know-how. I did not know that. I learned something new. Today, here's how this works. Everybody thinks about this, but the Solicitor General is the person that goes out in front of the Supreme Court and gives the argument. Cool. Know-how. I'm learning. This is cool. I'm getting smarter. 4, you're fair. I watch and I'm like, he is fair. She is fair. I guess he's fair. I'll watch him. He's fair. Joe, he's fair. You're like, this guy's fair. People want to watch somebody that is fair. Then you got somebody that has unique angles. Man, every time I listen when he's, everybody's saying something, but man, I never thought about it this way.
Right.
That was a unique angle.
Yeah.
I never thought this way. I never thought that was the case. That was unique. Nobody else is saying this. That was unique. He's taking a different angle, so I want to hear what he has to say. Peter Thiel, unique angle, right? It's a different thing. You're open, you're willing to talk to other people, and then you're entertaining. So you take those 7 things and you put these guys on a score, Richter scale, on a golf score, you're like, dude.
Fail all of them.
That's the point.
All of them.
That's the point. So you're sitting here saying, like, listen, man, you know what? Boom. Change the channel. By the way, when you do this, I grew up in Iran. This is how we used to change the channel.
Now it's this.
It used to be this.
Yeah.
And now it's not even like that. People change channels on their phones right now is what they're doing. But anyways, let's go to the next story. Tom, Jamie Dimon is being asked a question about getting the job that he wants, right? And he answers it in a way, some people are saying he's being genuine. Some people are saying, I don't know if he really wanted the job. I think he really wanted the job. Go ahead and play this clip, Robin. Let's react to it.
President-elect Donald Trump sends a message to you that he respects you greatly, but you will not be part of the Trump administration as a Treasury Secretary if that were something that were interesting to you.
First of all, I wish the president well, and thank you. That's a very nice note. But I just want to tell the president also, I haven't had a boss for 25 years, and I'm not about ready to start.
Do you believe him, Tom?
No. Jamie Dimon has had 2 bosses for the last 25 years that are some of the most impressive and foreboding bosses you can have. One is his stock ticker, and Wall Street itself is a massive boss. And the second is the Fed. He has had 2 bosses he's had to navigate. He's had a variety of things he's had to work with his board. Now, does he walk on air like some of the top 10 probably CEOs in America right now? Sure he does. But for him to say, I already have that is just, I don't think it's a very well thought out response because he wanted this job. He has mentioned to people these rumors that have happened for the last 2 years came from somewhere. And I like Jamie. I got a lot of respect for Jamie. I have endorsed him. I've supported him. I've talked about that I think he's made good calls for the economy. But right now, how would you not want that job? That job is the crown. That is the cherry on top of the sundae that has been an incredible career of an incredible guy in financial services, where now you take all that knowledge and you're not just representing the biggest bank in the world, you're representing the biggest economy in the world as Secretary of Treasury. How can you not want that job? He does want it. He's very competitive. And Jamie, come on, you've had two big bosses.
Well, I think in theory, I disagree with Tom a little bit. I mean, again, this is the theoretical aspect of it. To do what Jamie Dimon has done and then go take orders from Trump would be incredibly hard. I mean, Pat, I don't think you're signing up for a boss anytime soon. Maybe never again. I'm almost certain never again. You're never going to have a boss again. And Jamie Dimon is a titan of the universe. To think about somebody like that working under someone is theoretically very hard. But here's where I agree with you, Tom. He's made all the money in the world he could ever spend and his grandchildren could ever spend. He's done everything that he has to do. The crown jewel, to your point, the cherry on top, is a powerful position like Treasury Secretary. I do think he would swallow that ego, take the job of having a boss to be Treasury Secretary.
Yeah, it's when you think about where he's at right now and the decisions he's making, where he's already announced his replacement, that the next 2 years he's finding his replacement. When you think about the moves he made, well, I mean, that's a bad move because he had to come back and he had
I'm just saying, you give it up,
Bob Chapek,
come back, give it up, come back.
And then when you think about how much more lenient he got with his employees, hey, you guys have to work 80 hours a week. And I was like, well, we can now do this. And he's not Goldman Sachs, but Goldman Sachs is like, hey, you either come in or get out. He's not doing that right now. He's kind of getting a little bit more chill. Maybe he wants some people to like him. Maybe likability to go higher. I don't know. But here's what I would tell you. This is probably one of the most ambitious people in America, period, and maybe the most ambitious man in the financial industry. Let me explain. This guy used to be the executive assistant to Sandy Weill at American Express. Let me say this one more time, guys. This guy was an executive assistant to Sandy Weill. Sandy Weill was King Kong. Sandy was Jamie Dimon in the 90s, okay? Sandy ran Citi. Today, JP Morgan is JP Morgan Chase. Back then, it wasn't JP Morgan Chase. It was Citi. All roads led to Citi because of this guy, Sandy Weill. What ends up happening is Sandy gives him a, premier job, premier position. Sandy's daughter, I think, is reporting to him or something like that. He decides to promote somebody else and sets his daughter aside. Sandy's wife comes in and says, you can't let Jamie do this, ends up firing him. Jamie leaves. Sandy calls him the worst firing of his lifetime. And then Jamie ends up becoming who? The CEO of Chase. So this is not a regular guy we're talking about. He's running the number 1 bank in the world, okay? They around $7 to $10 trillion of money circulates in Chase every day. Let me say that one more time. $7 to $10 trillion every day that this guy's behind. This ain't a regular guy. He's not sitting there not wanting this job, I don't think. And I think for me, when you're a guy like that, if there's anybody that you choose to make the boss at the end, certain things change in life. When you read Kennedy's book, or if you read Bush's family and you study both of those families, both of them have something in common. They both say, go make a lot of money, then go into public service. Because if this country gave you the wealth that you now have, you owe it back to the country. So he's not going to be working for Trump. He's working for America. He needs to adjust that approach that he's taken. If America chose Trump and you love America, Trump is the spokesperson for America during those 4 years. If Trump knocked on the door for you to get that job, it ain't Trump giving you the job. It's the country that helped you become a billionaire giving you a job. And you have to entertain that job. No matter how cocky, competitive all of us are and driven we are, you have to entertain that call. And I think deep down inside, he wanted that job. And if he doesn't, I don't think Jamie's going away. I think the amount of knowledge Jamie has that can be used in a market for the next 2 decades is priceless. This guy's relationships and connections around the world is priceless. Does he have the swagger to be a one, meaning a president? I don't know. But does he have the swagger and the knowledge and the relationships to be the position that was potentially he was going after? I think so. If it doesn't happen under him, maybe it happens under somebody else. And by the way, who knows? Trump is famous for firing people. Just because somebody got the job. Now, you know what the next thing is at Vegas? Here's the next bet. If you really want to make a bet at Vegas, is the following. Who's getting fired first? Oh, wow. All these guys got jobs? All right, here's the bet. Who's getting fired first? And who's getting fired the fastest? So January, when is inauguration, by the way? January 20th? Is that what it is?
January 20th.
All right, so let's just say they all get their jobs January 21st, hypothetically.
Does Polymarket have this up yet?
Then the bet is, who's going to last the shortest time to say, dude, I bet $100,000 that guy's gone within 2 weeks. I bet $100,000 that guy's gone within a month. Nobody knows. When you work for him, he is a little bit a wild man, so he can make any decisions. Anyways, let's go to the next story here. Tom, I'm going to come to you first with this one. Who's funding new home purchases? Mom and dad. I'm going to read both stories, Tom, and then I'll come to you, and then I'll go to you afterwards. So here's stories, okay? Who's buying new home purchases? Mom and dad. Rising housing costs could lead to an increase in parental support for younger home buyers, with 26% of recent buyers using family cash for down payments, up from 23% last year. That's a +3. According to Redfin, parents like Deb Sen say they are giving their kids money each year to help with the down payment, while some, like parents in Minneapolis, are paying cash for the home outright. Damn. More young adults are turning to family for financial assistance, asking for cash instead of traditional wedding or baby gifts. That's actually a good move, by the way. Hey, we're going to give you $10,000, $20,000. Now help me buy the house. I like that. Or moving back home. Census data shows record shares of adults ages 25 to 34 living with parents. And then next story says young adults are holding off on moving out of parents' houses. About 1 in every 3 adults ages 18 to 34 is living with parents right now. And Gen Z struggles with income and prioritizing savings. Over 50% of Gen Z adults report they don't make enough money to live the life they want, per Bank of America data that they have. Victoria Franklin, 27, chose to live with her mother after college, saving 40 to 50% of her income. Tom, thoughts on the story here?
Okay, here we go. 2 logical explanations and a punchline. The 2 logical explanations are this. First of all, you know, what we saw happen when you print a bunch of money, you cause asset prices to go crazy. And housing prices have gone crazy just about everywhere. Up, I think national average, we were up about 37%. Places like San Diego and Austin, I think, have pulled back 15, 20% off peaks. So there's been some adjustment there, but housing is more expensive than it's ever been. Number one. And number 2 is the building over COVID had a pulse, and building is still catching up. As a matter of fact, builder stocks, Toll Brothers, Lanier, Pulte, if you look at the indexes with those, they're doing really, really well. Why? Because they're building like mad, but the supply isn't catching up. And once the supply catches up in the right places, prices will come down in those price areas because there's more homes available. So that's the first logical explanation, from the printing of money that increased home prices to COVID, and we didn't build for a while, and now we're building at a record pace, and we got a bunch of people moving into America. I wonder from where. Different topic. Different topic. So you have a supply and you have a demand issue, which is keeping the prices up. First logical explanation. Second logical explanation is what's happening here is mom and dad are advancing their inheritance. Most inheritance in this country is tied to the value of the home. There is more. You talk about baby boomers with $1 million in their IRA. That's not typical. Most people are getting the inheritance in the form of less than $200,000 in saving, but the equity it was in their mom and dad's home. So they're advancing that inheritance here. That's the 2 logical explanations that's happening. It's really happened. Here's the punchline. 33% of young adults under the age of 34 are still living in their parents' home. So parents are saying, what if we just advance the inheritance a little bit to get this jerk off the couch and into his own place? So parents are actually getting kids to move out using part of the advance inheritance.
You got a little bit emotional. Was that
Tom,
personal?
you all right?
Are you going through that, or is that your concern?
No.
You got good kids, Tom. Don't throw them under the bus on live podcast broadcast here.
Yeah, one of them might be watching.
Listen,
I once told my dad I'd never move out of the house, and he said, "You little bastard, don't ever threaten me like that." So it was. So it's
Will. What are your
this
thoughts
is what's
on this?
happening.
So you took it from the financial angle. I'm going to take it a little bit from more of the societal and philosophical angle. Pat, I follow you. We have something in common that you may not know, but that is our kids are very into soccer. I see you post about it on Instagram. You talk about a lot about the psychological requirements to become an elite soccer player. Both of my boys are very invested in soccer, played at high levels, and we talk a lot. This is the conduit through which I talk to my sons often. Like, I use it as a metaphor for life, as you do. I've watched you talk about this, like resilience and effort that you put in, technical skills built up over a multitude of years. By the way, as another comparison between the two of us, I was really inspired by what you said at the start of the show. I'm going to be watching tonight of where this show was in 2020. It's where we are today on the Will Cain Show. We're about 40, 50,000 live on the Will Cain Show. So I'm excited to see where we'll be in 4 years, maybe if we follow that plan that I will learn tonight. What I'm tying this psychological thing into this. We are, over the broad span, a wealthier society than we were 50 years ago. What did people do 50 years ago? They tried to set their kids up for a future that included, maybe I can help them pay for college. Maybe I can help them with this start in life. Housing has gotten to be a very difficult step in life for young people. If parents can help with this, I don't think you're violating the types of things I see you talk about when it comes to soccer or other aspects, which is we can't create entitled kids. We can't create kids that don't know how to work for it, who aren't hungry. That's the balance for everyone.
Yeah.
How do I give and set you up for future success without turning you into a softie? And I think sports is a great way to talk about that. I think this is a needle to thread. Can I set them up with a house so they can begin the process of wealth building? The other thing I would add to it is maybe instead of a house, if you've got an entrepreneurial son or daughter, set them up in that first business. Become an investor. Give them their nut to get started on what they're going to build for the future.
Yeah, I love that, and I want to show you a couple charts that is maybe a different angle than what both of you guys talked about, which is great because the audience wins because we hit it from all the different angles. Rob, if you can pull up the first clip, go to the first chart, not this one, go to this one. Check this out, guys. In 1970, it took you 2.4 years of saving money to buy a house. Today we're at 7 years.
Whoa.
That's just not cool. So we can sit there and be tough on the younger generation and be like, hey, you know, well, you are not disciplined. You're not this. Like, and I used to do that. I'm like, you're not doing it. I'm like, dude, what the? But when you go back, it only took 2.4 years. Now it's 6. Why is this? So then we just did an episode. If you go to the next chart, watch this one here, which is kind of weird. So not this one. Go to the other one right there. Watch this. If you zoom in a little bit to the one up top, Rob, zoom in a little bit for the one up top. You know what? If you can, it's okay. So, okay, thank you. So the one up top shows, if you look at the one up top, it shows what percentage of homes we built that were 1,400 square feet. Look at that. In the 70s, it was 35, 40%. 4 out of 10 homes we built were less than 1,400 square feet. It's a starter home. Hey, babe, it's just you and I, 2 bedrooms. Let's get a place. And today, look at that. From 40%, the blue's gone all the way down to 5%. Go to the bottom and watch this here. We used to build 500,000 homes every year, less than 40. These are starter homes, entry-level homes. We're at 55,000. 55,000, guys. And by the way, this isn't just in the last year. Look at it since when? Obama. 2008. And it started declining since when? It went down after Nixon. It went up a little bit under Reagan. It went down again at the tail end of Reagan, stayed flat under Bush and Clinton. Then it went down under Bush slightly, then really declined under Obama, and we've stayed at 55,000 a year. By the way, here's what's crazy. During this time, if we go from 70 till today, 1970, I ran some numbers on this, population was 200 million. We're at 340. So we've increased 140 on 200, which is 70% population's increased, which means this needs to be, instead of 500,000 per year, needs to be 850. But we're at 55. So we're expecting these young kids to go buy a house that a 45-year-old needs to buy that's been in their career for 20 years at 28 years old. Kid is like, dude, what do you expect me to do? I don't have that kind of money. $700,000, I cannot afford it, right? And then you go to the next chart and you look at what BlackRock and these other guys are doing. This is deeply concerning. Watch this. This is what the investors like BlackRock and others used to invest in homes, all these other things. And the orange is low-price homes they would buy. Green is mid-price. Blue is high-price. Look at the one they're buying. They don't care about mid-price. They don't care about high-price. They're buying low-price. And now one out of every 4 low-price homes is owned by an investor like BlackRock. You think they're buying it because they want to flip?
No.
They're not trying to flip. They're trying to say, we're in a rental season, guys. Forget about buying a house. Just come and rent from us. We're going to keep this long term. And by the way, here's what's crazy. Do you know in many cases what they're paying for these properties? So imagine this. You're buying your house. It's on the market for $200,000. BlackRock comes in and says, what do you have it at, 200? What's the number on this property right now if we run the comps? About 190. We'll give you $300,000. What? Yeah, we'll give you 250, 300. Are you serious? Yeah. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Jones offered me 195, and me and Mary were going to consider it. Forget about them. We'll give you 250. Oh, here you go. Wow, what a nice company BlackRock is. I'll take that additional 50. And they're thinking, this is fantastic. No, this is what's going on. So for us, and you're going to see where I'm going with this, Tom, I'm sitting here thinking about a solution for this. Because right now out of America, like this really concerns me because we run an agency, 60,000 agents, and our audience, they want to, I used to be a regular guy. My dad's a 99-cent store cashier. Do you know what percentage of America is developed? Like urban, like people living there? 82% of Americans live in 2% of land. 82% in 2%, which means what? What's going on with the other 98%?
We have a lot of land.
18% live in 98%. How often are we on a flight and you look down and you're like, damn, bro, there's so much
real estate.
What is this small little town, right?
Yeah.
How often do we do that, right? Watch this. Tom and I are playing poker in Arizona or Nashville. I actually don't remember where we were at. We were at this Inc. 5000 conference.
Oh, it was Phoenix.
Phoenix. We're at Phoenix
with
having a great time with Mayor Masso from Frisco. It was a 3-term mayor of Frisco. And he starts talking about Frisco. I'm like,
Texas?
Yeah. I said, Tom, what is Frisco? Rob, can you pull up Frisco's population in 1990? Okay,
this is where I'm from. I watched this happen.
So watch
I'm not
this.
from Frisco, but 30 minutes away.
Okay, so check this out. This is Frisco's population in 1990, only 6,500. Okay? Rob, can you go pull up Frisco's population today? Go type in Frisco's. No, that's not it. Go Frisco. Okay, if you go 2024, go to 2024. Frisco's population 2024, look at this. 234,000 people today.
Home of the Dallas Cowboys, Dallas Stars, Texas Rangers minor league
PGA,
team, FC Dallas, PGA.
Jamba Juice, all these other guys, right? Okay.
They're within shouting distance of their own U.S. representative.
Guys, how the hell did this happen?
When I grew up, Pat, a Dairy Queen and a brothor. That's it. That's it.
Great city. Fantastic, right? First you go one place, and you go get to Dairy Queen.
Get laid, grab a sundae.
Yeah,
work that both.
But work that both. But you know what the point is? Here's the moral of the story. If somebody from the Trump administration is watching this, let's just say, and you say, okay, what do we do with this? California. Everybody used to live in L.A. I can't afford to buy a house in L.A. By the way, in 1990, the average house in Frisco was $58,000. You know what the average house right now is in Frisco? $699. From 58 to 6. How many people you think can buy a house in Frisco today? Okay, $699,000, $672,000 last. Okay, $672 today. $672,000. It used to be $58,000. Moral of the story, Tom, when people couldn't afford to live in L.A., where did they move to? The Valley.
Or a little bit north of that, Valencia. Or they would go, or
Canyon
if you lived in
Country.
Orange County, you went out towards San Bernardino.
That's right.
But you go
Riverside.
out.
This is Orange
Covina.
County, by the way.
I know.
What you're looking at, Frisco.
Or you went toward Thousand Oaks before Amgen caused the prices to go up, but you went out.
Now they're looking at Prosper. Now they're looking at other places.
I used to own the newspaper in Prosper.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's where Deion Sanders' house is that he put up. Yeah.
Now it's behind a supermarket.
So I think a part of this, I'm of the kind that I don't even want to allow the younger generation to have an excuse because I never wanted it. Like we grew up with nothing. And we still figured out a way to make it work. The right people got to figure out a way to make it work. But it's also our job to make the country a better place for the next generation. I think we got to take that 55,000 starter homes we're building to 1 million for a few years because our home shortage right now used to be 2.3 million. We're at 7 to 8 million. What are we talking about? There's plenty of land. Some investors need to sit there and say, guys, 1,400 square feet, starter home, $180,000. Come over here, 2.4 years to save your money. Put a down payment. Get in here, you and your wife. Let's grow the city. Let's create some jobs. Maybe drive 30 minutes to your job. Maybe drive 40 minutes to your job. We'll bring more businesses. When we do, you'll get the job here in town. And then we'll develop sell division. I don't know. If I was a governor, or if I was a president, or if I had a job like that, this would be a very, very interesting direction to go because the younger generation will love you forever if you create the right policies and opportunities for this. It's my thoughts. Tom.
I completely agree with that because right now, what is happening is that the older neighborhoods are the ones that, and I don't mean old decrepit, I mean the older neighborhoods are the ones that are getting bought up. And it's like if you look right around,
you going after older population like
nanas and
like older people are crepit.
Nana should be recycled. You know, that's just,
respectful podcast. You're going after.
There's children.
Will,
Right. Family
forgive
podcast.
his edginess today.
Do you
But
know
go
how
ahead.
many people need organ donors?
You're so funny.
We need a supply. We're short of kidneys.
So the older communities,
are the ones that get bought up. And that's where these, 1,700, 2,000 square foot homes are that BlackRock owns big blocks of that become your rental communities. And that's reality where it's happening. And when you get upset at a mayor or a governor who says, hey, you know what, up in Boynton Beach, I'm going to give a tax incentive for somebody to put 2,000 jobs in here. Don't get upset at that company, put those 2,000 jobs there, because now you've got jobs out of the big urban areas of Fort Lauderdale and Miami so that you can have good jobs there for people who could live in areas where the home is less expensive. So if you go further and further and further out, the debate becomes, carpool lanes, transit, rail. How do these people get to work conveniently so that they're not spending their life in commuting? And so I think when you hear governors that are trying to make this mix and you complain about a tax incentive for a business to move jobs out to where these houses are, you should shut up because you don't know what you're talking about. That's exactly where we need the jobs, out near the homes that cost a little bit less. And we need to incentivize, building, back towards city centers where there's been industrial areas that have been, reconstituted. You can look at case studies all across the United States that they did in Pittsburgh. They have a bunch of very affordable condos, townhouses downtown.
I agree. And by the way, there's something about being part of building a town. But by the way, I think Fort Lauderdale is going to blow up. I think Fort Lauderdale is going to blow up. And here's why.
They need a new mayor.
Well, we're going to help with that, but I think Fort Lauderdale is going to blow up. And I'm going to tell you why I think Fort Lauderdale is going to blow up. The reason why I think Fort Lauderdale is going to blow up is because guys in Palm Beach can't afford the houses there. Guys in Boca can't afford it. Guys in Miami are like, listen, I got to figure out a different place. They're going to come here. Fort Lauderdale in the next 20 years could be the LA of Florida.
I think so too.
And by the way, because Miami is Newport Beach. Miami is not LA. People think Miami is LA. Miami is Newport Beach. Miami is Highland Park. Miami is, Miami's a different, but I think this place, Fort Lauderdale, and obviously will help turn it into the element of the media side, Burbank of East Coast, but that's exciting. But let me go to the next story here. Here's the next story. Talking about Hollywood. Ben Affleck. I'm watching a movie, The Accountant, one of my favorite movies this guy's done. It's a freaking amazing movie. This guy, forget about his politics. He, in my opinion, whether you like it or not, I love the way this guy acts. Sometimes I don't think he's acting. I just think he's being himself, and he's tapping into challenges, upbringing, whatever he had. He gave an analysis. Have you seen this, Vinny, or no?
No, I haven't seen it.
Vinny, you have to see what he says. He gives a breakdown on AI going into Hollywood in ways I've never seen anybody explain, and just listen to the way he presents his argument, like a lawyer. Rob, go ahead and play this clip.
I want to, as we kind of wrap up here, I do want to come back to AI. Jerry, you mentioned it, but, Ben, how did, earlier, you guys weren't here, we did a demonstration, my colleague Andrew Sorkin and I recreated ourselves and our voices. How do you see it? I mean, is it a benefit or is it a real threat? Is it possible that a Netflix could say, we're going to do our own, James Bond thing out there with a bunch of actors that are completely recreated for this market or that market?
A, that's not possible now. B, will it be possible in the future? Highly unlikely. C, movies that will be one of the last things, if everything gets replaced, to be replaced by AI. AI can write you excellent imitative verse that sounds Elizabethan. It cannot write you Shakespeare. The function of having two actors or three or four actors in a room and the taste to discern and construct that is something that currently entirely eludes AI's capability, and I think will for a meaningful period of time. What AI is going to do is going to disintermediate the more laborious, less creative, and more costly aspects of filmmaking that will allow costs to be brought down, that will lower the barrier to entry, that will allow more voices to be heard, that will make it easier for the people who want to make Good Will Huntings to go out and make it. Look, AI is a craftsman at best. Craftsmen can learn to, make stickly furniture by sitting down next to somebody and seeing what their technique is and imitating. That's how large video models, large language models basically work. A library of vectors of meaning and transformers that interpret context, right? But they're just cross-pollinating things that exist. Nothing new is created.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. And really, in order to do that, look, craftsman is knowing how to work. Art is knowing when to stop. And I think knowing when to stop is going to be a very difficult thing for AI to learn because it's taste. And also, lack of consistency, lack of controls, lack of quality. AI for this world of generative video is going to do key things more. I wouldn't like to be in the visual effects business. They're in trouble because what costs a lot of money is now going to cost a lot less. And it's going to hammer that space, and it already is. And maybe it shouldn't take 1,000 people to render something.
There you go.
But it's not going to replace human beings making films. It may make your background more convincing. It can change the color of your shirt. It can fix mistakes that you made.
I really like the way he's presenting.
You can pause it right here.
Vinny, your thoughts on this?
First, Pat, that audio guy, horrible. That's bothered me.
You're in the business of sound, and how do you screw up the mic and put it the way you put it?
Yeah, but go ahead. He's fired.
He got fired.
But I agree with Ben 100%. I agree with the acting, Pat, too. And it's like that's what has been the problem for the past 15, I want to say 20 years. There's no everything is Avenger. Oh my God, I can't wait for the 9th one to come out. And it's visually, but when's the last good movie, good acting, Pat, that you've seen? Like, when's the last time you were like, oh my God, this is like one of those movies?
Well, I tell you, not like a wonderful movie. I watched the Red One with The Rock that just came out. You know, the movie that just came out, him and Holiday one, took the boys. You know, when I go to movies with these kids, they make fun of me because it's my opportunity to sleep. I take a 30-minute. I'm not even kidding with you. I love movies because you and I, we've been through this many times. But I actually stayed up for the entire movie, and I texted the DJ, and I told him, I said, listen, phenomenal. The kids were ranking the movie, and they're giving him a grade on text.
Oh, really?
Hey, Dwayne, I thought it was an 8.75. Would you watch it? I would watch it again. It was an action movie. It was good, but are you talking like Born on 4th of July? Are you talking about like Armageddon? Are you talking about stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm talking about good acting where there's real emotion, and he makes a great point. There's so much that a robot can do in the visual effects and the graphics, but like real, simple, emotional, human emotion movies, like he said, Good Will Hunting, Scent of a Woman, even Little Miss Sunshine, movies where you like
Scent
you
of
get
a Woman is
oh my
something
God,
else
like but all those movies, you get emotion, you get attached to these people. I don't think AI is going to be taking actors' roles, but the behind the scenes stuff, like we talk about, Pat, the editing, the visuals, all that. Those people could be concerned, but especially as an actor, that's a really, really good sign and very, very well.
What do you think about what he said?
3 things in the style of Patrick Bet-David or Ben Affleck. A, B, C. A, I think Ben Affleck is an incredible actor. I don't care about his politics. Like you, when he's in something, I probably am clicking on it to watch. There's a few of these guys, the highest of which is Denzel Washington. I don't care what he does. I will be watching. Ben Affleck is in that category. He's a really, really good actor. B, movies are way too expensive, and that's because of capitalism. Capitalism is the best system of economics we've ever developed, but it doesn't mean it's perfect. In pursuit of the dollar, you get sequels. You get known quantities. You get characters. You get repetition. As he points out, you've lost the Good Will Huntings of the world. They're cheap to make, but they're not guaranteed blockbusters to make money on the back end. That cost comes down with AI. We can now get more entry-level movies. We get better art. C, this is the most important one, and I'm going to explain why. The AI limitation is deep, and this is about like talking about the God particle or where creation comes from, both on a universal scale and within each one of us. Where do we get inspiration? Where do we begin the process of creation? That is not part of AI, and I don't think it will ever be part of AI. That is deeply human. to begin the process of something, not, as he points out, combine things that already exist. You can do the mathematics and you can do the AI, and scientists ultimately get back to the God particle. Yes, but what is the soul of the thing, the universe, the beginning, whatever it may be? And it leads you to faith. It leads you to the existence of God. I think it applies on the human level as well. What happens when a human being sits down with a blank piece of paper? Something has to happen that AI cannot do yet. And I don't know that it ever will be able to do, because all it is, to his point, is accumulation of knowledge. And there is some creation in taking two ideas that are seemingly unrelated and putting them together. But there is something unique to the human experience that he's talking about that will not be replaced by AI.
Tom, thoughts?
I agree. AI can take what is known and do it faster, more efficiently, and better. Because if you take a look at it and you back up, what is AI? Well, AI is nothing more than taking large language models, which is basically big stacks of existing, pre-existing, and done, finished, resolved stuff, assimilating it, and then bringing it back. You teach it to program, it programs faster. You teach it to assimilate facts, it assimilates facts better. You teach it about the framework for a narrative, it'll take facts and build you a narrative better and faster. But what it won't do is it won't create. And people say, well, it creates a document out of those facts. No, it created a better document out of the known facts. It created a more a smoother and faster code out of a known structure. And you asked it, build me the code to make an app that very simply does this or this, even more complicated. What it doesn't do, and you call it the God particle, it's the creative part. The creative part of humanity, it does not scan the universe and say, wow, what if we gave people a microwave oven? A microwave oven would help them save time cooking, right? It doesn't think that way. That's not the way AI works. There's a lot.
What would Musk say to us? Meaning, you remember the one sit down that Musk had with Jack Ma? Rob, can you go pull up this clip with Jack Ma and Musk? If you type in Jack Ma and Musk, I'm sure you guys have seen this. Where can you zoom in to see what it says right there? I just want to see what the. Zoom in so I can see the words, Rob. I'm 46 now. I'm not 30. Okay, there you go. I can't. That's in Spanish, Rob. Okay, right there. No, right. That one's good. That one's good, Rob.
This one?
Rob not only wants me to.
some eye drops for the show.
Go to that one,
you
Rob.
You guys gave me some eye drops in Spanish. I don't know what's in my eye.
That's the one. Watch this, folks. Watch this.
I hate the word AI called artificial intelligence. I call it Alibaba intelligence.
Yeah.
Look at Musk.
Might end up being true. You never know.
It's so difficult to predict the future. 99.99% of the predictions that human being had in the history about the future, all wrong.
Including that one?
Oh yeah. Only the 0.00% of the prediction are right.
You know what
They're
that
right
look is?
because
You know
by
what that
accident.
body language is?
Yeah, but it's also true that
You're not on
80%
my
of
level.
statistics are false.
Yeah. So my meaning is.
Come on, guys. That was a joke.
No, he's realizing
Actually, I'm
you're
not
not on my
interested in
level of
Mars.
intelligence. No, you can keep playing it because it gets to.
I just came back from there, so I'm more interested on the Earth, the things, what's going on happening here. So why
hiding
you're
in
so
Tokyo.
curious about the
Watch
Mars? Just one step, you go to Mars, but you will never be able to come back.
Yeah,
So that's my view.
That's not how it works, though.
And
You can pause it right here. Okay, so watch this. The guy to the left is worth $60 billion, give or take, probably more today. Type in Jack Ma's net worth, Rob, if you could. Jack Ma's probably worth anywhere between $55 to $100 billion. Depending on what the market is right now with Alibaba. He's lost some money. Guys, let's start a GoFundMe for him.
Yeah,
He's
I feel bad for the little guy.
Send him $5.
Little
Okay,
guy.
so he's worth $24 billion.
Or to go find me, the CCP.
Now, here's the thing. That is a perfect example of where one guy sees the world from a different lens and the other guy sees it from a different lens. A German philosopher once said, if a lion could speak, the world could not understand him. So, Elon Musk, if he was to be sitting here, he would say, you guys are naive. What would Elon say to Ben Affleck? Would Elon say, are you out of your mind? Do you know the stuff that we're building? The types of stuff these guys are going to be able to write? And the types of emotion they're going to be able to put into this? I don't know. But what I think is, if you and I thought Google was sick the first time somebody came, I'll never forget the first time somebody came and said, did you Google it? I said, what the hell is that? Go to google.com. I went to google.com. I'm like, oh, this is bullshit. They're just copying Yahoo. Look at this, 2 O's, Google, Yahoo, OO. They're just trying to be Yahoo. This is not going to do anything. Yeah, watch. But this is just a box. Yahoo has Yahoo Horoscope. Yahoo has Yahoo Finance. Yahoo has Yahoo Sports. There's nowhere to go. Google something. We're like, wow, that's crazy. And then the first time somebody said ChatGPT. And then somebody said, why don't you write a rap song of Tupac and Trump combined? And you're like, damn, that was actually pretty good within 30 seconds. So I don't know. I think only the paranoid survive. To be fully there to think that AI today is the best version of AI we're going to get, I would say stay paranoid, stay nimble, because you have no idea the limits that technology has. And often when we are part of the camp that think our, whatever we're doing we're so amazing that we're always going to be needed. Here's a talent. Here's an artist. The argument that Ben Affleck's making. And I want to agree with them. I want to agree with the fact that he's saying, the what do you call it? The special effects guys, they're going to get destroyed. You don't need 1,000 people to design this. I'm going to be able to do it within an hour, and I'm going to give it to you, spit it out. Maybe a better background, but who knows? We're going to find out in 10 years who's right, whether a guy from Musk's side or the other side. Rob, I want to go to a couple other stories before we wrap up. Okay, so if you can go to Twitter, go to my Twitter, Rob. Just a few days ago, we saw this. New York Times. Biden allows Ukraine to strike Russia with long-range U.S. missiles. With 2 months left in office, President, for the first time, authorized Ukrainian military to use the system known as the ATACMS to defend its forces in the Kursk region of Russia. This is when? This is 17th. Today is what? 19th, 2 days ago. Go to New York Times 33 minutes ago. Watch this, folks. Ukraine fired U.S.-made missiles into Russia for the first time. Officials say the attack came just days after Biden gave Ukraine permission to use the weapon to strike targets inside Russia. Now, Zelensky comes out and says the Ukraine-Russia war ends faster with Trump. Rob, if you got the clip, play this clip. For him to be, well, I think Trump's going to do something about it. If this is not this one, Rob, it's is that the clip that you have? Or?
I do. It's Donald Trump explaining the escalation between Ukraine and
Russia. Okay, go ahead and play. I think this thing got like 60 million views. Go ahead and play it.
We have never been closer to World War III than we are today under Joe Biden. A global conflict between nuclear-armed powers would mean death and destruction.
When does this, Rob? This is yesterday?
Unmatched in human history. It would be nuclear Armageddon. Nothing is more important than avoiding that nightmare.
How long is this, Rob?
We will avoid it.
About 6
minutes.
We
need
okay, so you can pause it right here. Go to a clip, Rob, of... Anyways, and this story that I'm saying is the fact that Zelensky is saying it's going to end faster with Trump being, then he's going to end the conflict. This is a Forbes story that Zelensky is talking about. It was written all over the place. But Putin in October or September made a very clear comment that if you allow these guys to use these weapons against us, we'll be willing to resort to nuclear. Like, we're willing to go nuclear. Putin is saying this. By the way, we're in it right now, live, while we're doing a podcast. This is going on. So, somewhere in Russia, Kremlin, wherever it is, Putin is sitting with his handlers and his people saying, what are we doing next? Will, what do you think happens here?
So I think Biden is playing with fire, but it might not be the raging inferno we're afraid of just yet. Today on the Will Cain Show, I will have Eric Prince on. I spoke to Eric recently and asked him about this. Eric Prince is the former founder of Blackwater, incredibly intelligent when it comes to global affairs and warfare. I asked him also about the fact that North Korea is devoting 100,000 soldiers to Russia as well. Here was Eric's response to those two things. That's fodder. North Korea devoting soldiers to Russia is basically human fodder on the front lines in Ukraine. Secondarily, he said these missiles that are being used are not top-of-the-line stuff. It's not the muscle the United States could be allowing the Ukraine to fire into Russia. So maybe perhaps not the inferno that we're afraid of, but still playing with fire. Biden and the geopolitical establishment in Europe and the military-industrial complex here has a hard-on for Ukraine. They just simply do. And this is one of the biggest reasons the American public wanted to bring in Donald Trump. I have full faith that the negotiator, the strong man, the clear leader that is Donald Trump will be able to keep this from metastasizing into World War III. I think Putin knows it. I think Zelensky knows it. And I think we're headed towards a peace deal, hopefully even before Donald Trump takes office, because as Tom pointed out earlier, the dominoes are falling. The world sees the next step for the United States, and people are from Lunchables to Russia. They're getting the world in order.
So I know what Eric says, the fact that, hey, these are not the best missiles. We're not using our best, all this other stuff. Go optics. Your name is Putin. There's power plays going around the world. You have to seem strong in front of your people. 2 days ago, Biden's giving permission. 2 days later, boom. The headline says those missiles have been fired.
And that's why he's playing with fire.
That's the point. So Putin doesn't care if it's a 1990, the highest, latest 2024 that they just build with the highest technology, whatever. Putin doesn't. All he cares is you gave him permission. He took advantage of it. During the time that we have a president-elect Trump, this is your last 60 days that you're doing this, no problem. Tom, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, Russia's been fighting mostly a ground incursion strategy, right? You take a look at it, it's moved the line because this has been a let's take their land war from the beginning, right? I mean, Crimea and everything like this in response to and spurred by, Ukraine possibly joining NATO and all those things. So it's historically, that's my frickin' land, and NATO is going to make them join. No, I'm not having that. So this has been a land war. This has not been we're going to drop a bunch of crap on Baghdad, make a point to Saddam Hussein, and then go home and then let them rebuild their country. This is a land grab. So he's been doing conventional. And what he hasn't done, even though you've seen the devastation in cities that have been along the way, he has not gone to you see pictures today of major population centers in Ukraine. They look like New York, right? They look like New York. They're largely untouched. He hasn't hit them. And what I worry is what you say, is that he's got to make like a statement strike. That he's got to come back with a statement strike. Like when, what did they try to do they launched in the Hezbollah and with support from Iran, they launched like 200 missiles overnight, 200 rockets overnight. And they tried to make that statement and they killed a bunch of ducks on farmland. Yeah. But they were trying to make a statement about all these. To your point, he's got to make a statement. And the concern is, what is he going to do to make a statement that I'm still strong and not to be screwed with, while I believe the world waits for Trump to take power? Because this wasn't the most high-tech stuff, but there's an optic that's not good for Russia.
I mean, how about this? Anything with somebody threatening a nuclear attack, to me, it's already a red flag. We're talking about, we were warned about Trump doing all this. They're doing it. And that the headline, I think, is misleading. Joe Biden, blank, blank, blank. Joe Biden, as we all know, hasn't made any decisions since he's been in, okay? And this is why it's so important about the cabinet that he's picking, Will. This is the most important thing, because who's going to be, Mark Rubio we're talking about. Anthony Blinken is in front of a camera 3 days ago going, hey, guys, we got to get $8 billion to them before January 20th. They're rushing the money. These guys are in charge. The Blinkens are in charge. They're the ones that are responsible for the 13 dead American soldiers in Afghanistan. These are the people, the Tulsi Gabbard. Like, who's the person that's in right now? Avril Haines? All the spy balloons, all the Russia. How did they not anticipate all these attacking and everything? Meanwhile, you know where Joe Biden is, Pat? He's in the Amazon dressed like Crocodile Dundee. Have you seen what all this is happening? Look at Joe Biden. Is this a movie scene? Look at this guy.
Where his shoulders go?
Look at look at the lighting. Everything is good. This looks like a joke. It looks like look at him. You think that guy's making the decisions? It's the Tony Blinkens. It's the Jake Sullivans. It's all these people that are making all these decisions last minute.
Where's he walking to?
Where the hell is he going? That's Crocodile Dundee.
You know what it is, though? Think about, Vinny, this is kind of weird to me. And let me tell you why. Let's just say you and I were enemies.
Okay.
Okay? And I come out to you and we have dinner, me, you, and your wife.
Okay.
Okay? And now it's like, hey, we're laughing, we're having a good conversation. All good. Hey, bro, listen, I know,
we hate each other.
You took my job 4 years ago. And I'm coming back, and I'm not really taking your job, so you should have stayed in it, but they kind of took away your job, and I just beat this other person. But, bro, it's not fair what they did to you. It's kind of effed up. And but listen, respect to you, 45 years you gave, awesome, lots of respect. And I'm leaving. I'm in my plane. I'm going to a UFC fight to go hang out with John Jones and Dana White and everybody else.
Yeah.
And then I hear the next day, while I'm talking about we're going to create a peace treaty and we're going to make Ukraine and Russia get along, you're now given the green light for them to do that? Huh. Then 2 days later, Ukraine actually executes on your permission that you gave me. Then I'm Trump coming out and saying Joe Biden is about to cause World War III. What happened to that meeting that we had? So this makes me a little bit uncomfortable to know what the hell just happened. Yeah. I thought we had a good conversation together. So this is either a few different things to me. It's either one, what you said, Joe's not doing it. Everybody else that's in there is making a decision. They're saying, hey, let's sell a few more missiles. Let's cause a little bit more of this that's taking place. Two, maybe, just maybe, Biden is trying to intercept of this war being done early by him getting ahead of it so Trump doesn't get that victory. How? I don't know how you go about doing it the way that he's trying to do it right now. But it makes me very uncomfortable that it happens the day after you and I visit, 2 days after you and I visit. And I thought we had a cordial conversation together, and then you come out and do something like this.
Or C, provoking an escalation from Putin that denies Trump the ability to negotiate a peace on the war they want to continue in Ukraine.
But let me tell you how that works. A guy like Trump is not going to worry about that. Here's how guys like Trump are wired.
But we're trying to get to Biden's motivation from that meeting.
I totally get it with you, but what they don't understand is Trump is already probably talking to Putin.
Yeah.
And their camp is already talking. Mm-hmm. And he's already talking to Zelensky. You better believe they're having those conversations. So they're probably saying, dude, Putin's probably saying, dude, this guy's going to get in. What the hell is this other guy doing? Get out of the way. What are you doing? What are you doing with all this stuff right now? So I don't know. By the way, if this shit backfires and Putin's in a meeting right now and he's sitting there saying, you know what? I've had it. Light those people up.
Yep.
Light them up. If he does, guess whose hands that blood will be on? Biden and all his
Blinken.
All those guys that want this, they're going to have that blood on their hands. Not anybody else. I don't understand what's going on over here. I don't think it's a good move. I want to finish up with a story, selfish story, sports story, because, for me, I love watching you on ESPN. Yeah. I thought you were fantastic on First Take.
Thank you.
And I thought you made it more exciting. Like, I liked watching you being on there and the fights and all the stuff that was going on. It was you, him, and who was not Skip, but Max Kellerman. I thought it was a great combo, right? ESPN made a massive mistake not allowing some conservatives to be there to give their argument. Massive mistake. All of a sudden, I started seeing certain guys disappear. What the hell is going on over here? Why is it only this? But there's a number that came up that I want to talk about. World Series, right there, Rob, if you want to go to it. So World Series drew larger audience in Japan than NBA Finals did in U.S. this year, okay? The 2024 World Series, Dodgers-Yankees, average 12.1 million viewers in Japan, surpassing 11.3 million average viewers in the U.S. For NBA Finals, in Game 5, U.S. drew an average of 18.6 million viewers across Fox platforms, okay? Making it the most watched Game 5 on Fox since 2017. Globally, the World Series averaged over 30 million viewers across North America and Asia. In the U.S., the series averaged 15.8 viewers per game, the highest since 2017. Game 5 numbers representing a 58% increase from last year. Rangers Diamondbacks. Viewership peaked between 11:15 to 11:30 as the Dodgers clinched the whole thing, right? Now, as a guy who's a Yankee guy, I watched this, and I saw the stat here. 2024 World Series, 15.8 million. 2024 NBA Finals, 11.3. Shaq yesterday is giving his commentary on it. They're saying they believe the three-pointer has destroyed the game. Shaq's blaming Steph Curry and all these other guys. Yesterday, I don't know if you saw or not, James Harden just passed Ray Allen. He's now second place. Steph Curry sitting at first place. He's got 1,000 more three-pointers than James Harden. But yesterday, they're playing against each other. And it was a moment that Steph Curry and the two shared together. Why do you think the NBA product is as shitty as it is today?
Let's start with what's so good about the Major League Baseball and the World Series.
Yeah.
It's obvious but needs to be stated. You had two effects taking place. One, the two biggest markets in the United States squaring off for the World Series, L.A. and New York. Second, the biggest global superstar in that sport, and that explains the ratings in Japan, Shohei Ohtani for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
For sure.
On the NBA side, the thing about NBA, and this took place while I was at ESPN, there's a wishful thinkingness to the NBA. For years, I would appear on First Take and debate people about when the NBA was going to surpass the NFL. There was people that, with a serious and straight face, made the argument that it was on the path and would soon have bigger ratings than the NFL, which is an absolute joke of a take. It's not even in the same stratosphere as the NFL. And that's honestly, Pat, because of cultural issues, wish casting the NBA into popularity. I love the NBA. I love all sports. By the way, my teams were in both of those finals. A year ago, the Texas Rangers, and this year, the Dallas Mavericks. But the NBA is a niche sport compared to the NFL, and their lean into culture and Black Lives Matter, I truly do believe hurts that product, and it will continue to hurt that product. I think that's much more to blame than the three-pointer. I actually think that's an entertaining aspect to the game. I think Steph Curry is not just a superstar, but he's revolutionized basketball in a way that will go down in the history books. And by the way, it's not just basketball. He's like soccer. The idea of managing space and off-ball movement is the revolution in sports, and the NFL, by the way, spreading out defenses. So I don't agree with Shaq. I think the NBA's problem is, A, it was never as big as everybody wanted it to be, and B, it picked one side of the aisle. It said, we want to be here for this, what turns out to be not 50% of America, but about 40% of America.
Yep, and you nailed it. Well, when you have somebody, the face of the NBA, which is LeBron James. I mean, let's just face it. When you have that guy, uneducated, and you look at Google every time he has a book in his hand, it's always on the first page as if he's going to read the whole thing. The most divisive, like race baiting, bitter, anything that something happens negative, he always has to go to the race, and it's unattractive. People don't want to watch that. People go to sports, Will, as you know, to escape from everything. When I do stand-up, when I do comedy, when we do our sketches, that is for people to get away from everything and laugh and enjoy. When I'm at a basketball game and I'm watching the main guy on there that is just the most divisive guy that in what sport? Name one other person that's like him, that anything something comes up, he's talking crap about cops. He what was that tweet that he did, Rob, where he kind of he wanted people to go after the actual cop that legally shot, I forgot her name, Brianne or something like that.
McKay Bryant.
McKay Bryant. He deleted this tweet.
She was stabbing another girl.
Yeah, and he was posting about the officer, basically not threatening him, but the guy did his job. A girl took a knife and tried to stab a girl, and he shot her. I think this is one of the main reasons, Pat, that people don't want to watch the NBA.
One more thing, Pat. This goes back to what you were talking about media, and then I think it was beneath the surface of us talking about Ben Affleck. The NFL created a product that's incredibly unique. It's not star-driven. It's laundry-driven. You root. I think you might be a Dolphins fan. But you're going to root for the Dolphins. Yes, you may vacillate if Tua's the quarterback or not, but it's not really about the guy. I root for the Cowboys and the Longhorns, and they change players every 3-4 years, and it doesn't change. The NBA, and to some extent Major League Baseball, are star-driven enterprises. You need to have the star. Maybe they need to check off the checklist you rattled off earlier, Pat, like likability. But the NBA saw a Jordan peak. That was it. It was driven by one man. You couldn't have paid him enough money. Honestly, I agree with you about LeBron, but it's been driven now for 2 decades by LeBron. The NBA Finals, I love him. I love Luka Doncic. I like Jason Tatum. Not a star on the same level as Jordan and LeBron. And if you have a league predicated upon stars, you don't have your star in the final, that hurts your product.
By the way, let me just read this quote that he says, and Tom, I'll come to you. This is what Shaq said. He was asked, what's the reason why NBA's had it hit? He says, for me, the three-point shot is the single worst thing to happen to the basketball in my lifetime. And let's back it up with a little bit of history. The ABA did not introduce the three-point shot. The ABA absorbed the three-point shot. The three-point shot, as we know it, is a gimmick of a promoter. I would repeat that, folks. It was not asked for by anybody in the NBA. It was the gimmick of a promoter. That man being Abe Saperstein, the impresario of Harlem Globetrotters, who founded a league in 1961, called the ABA, he hoped would be in opposition to the NBA. That league lasted a year and a half. It folded in the second year, but he got a three-point shot because he needed a gimmick, and then the NBA took it. I've long said that there will probably be a 4-point shot in my lifetime, and the three isn't going anywhere, and that's the game here. What it does is it distorted the game at every level. Tom, your thoughts on this here?
We're also talking about, let's talk about one thing about baseball. You're talking about the country, Japan, that has an amazing love affair with baseball. They have such enthusiasm for it. And it has long been a place where great Japanese players come to the MLB and make big salaries, and a journeyman at 33 can go play in Japanese baseball, or an exiled one. Trevor Bauer went there, was beloved. And you look at what was going on. They loved him. They loved his antics. They loved the sword. But also you have to remember, beyond Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who came to the Dodgers, is only 26, but he was the 3-time Cy Young Award winner, their equivalent of the Cy Young in Japan. Hideo Nomo had come to the Dodgers long ago. Yu Darvish is with the San Diego Padres. There is a love affair with baseball, but more importantly, the acceptance of Major League Baseball that has had this exchange system where, your younger, incredible players can come to an amazing high wattage stage in Major League Baseball in the U.S. and make bank, as we've seen, and also American players go over there. When I was growing up, there's a guy named Warren Cromartie. Warren Cromartie, the Hawk. Yeah. And he went over to Japan and had resurrected his career for the last 4 years. And he hit these blistering shots over there off the junk ball pitchers. And they loved it. And it was beloved. So you're also talking about Japan that has had this natural love affair with American baseball. And this was like a triple word score for them. The Dodgers, the Yankees, Shohei Ohtani first, but don't discount the love they have for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who many of them were very sad to see him come to the America. Oh, couldn't he stayed here for a couple more years? But we know he came to the Dodgers and make bank. So there is that beyond all the stuff that's going on.
You look up the Hawk, Rob. That's who I thought of, Andre Dawson. I don't know this Warren Cromartie guy.
Oh, I know Andre Dawson. Look at that guy. Man. Look at that stash.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, a part of it is the NBA All-Star Game sucks, but most sports All-Star Game typically sucks. Baseball is cool with the, home run derby. They change it up a little bit. It's still exciting. But the NBA All-Star, they did it good a few years ago when they had the, fourth quarter was the best defense I've ever seen in my career being played by superstars on both ends. It was like whoever gets to 157 first. Freaking love that fourth quarter. I think it was 6 years ago. Giannis was against LeBron, maybe 5 years ago. It was fantastic. But I think today's product is boring. I think players on the season don't play. The way the other day, who's the center from 76ers? What's his name? The Embiid. It's like, he wants to play every other game, and I don't want to play. It's such a player-driven league today that it's no longer a fan-driven league, and the fans are simply not interested. I don't watch it anymore. By the way, I was an obsessed NBA guy. I could care less about the NBA. In the finals, I like Luka. I like how he plays. He's an exciting player to me. Boston Celtics, super boring team. They're like the Spurs. If you look at the Spurs in the finals, they never got ratings.
All layups and
they were super boring. The only ones that they got ratings because they played against LeBron or something like that. Ray Allen, that whole team that they had that was exciting. My team, before I wrap up, was the Bills when I first came to the States in 1990. I like Thurman Thomas. I like BB. I like Bryce Pop. I like
Bills.
Warren Sapp. Then I became a Dallas fan, Cowboys. But today, if I tell you who I like today, in our family, we root for one guy in the NFL today, and his name is Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow is number one in yards, number one in touchdowns, number one in touchdown interception ratio. Jamar Chase, number one in yards, number one in touchdowns.
And still can't win.
And they still can't win at 4-7. The guy missed 2 field goals yesterday. Jamar Chase called his ass out. Jamar's probably not going to be coming back. I don't know how good of a locker room player he is.
You're not an NBA guy. You're a Heat guy, though? I
was a Laker fan till the day LeBron showed up. A diehard Laker fan.
But I know you're Yankees.
Oh, I am Yankees. I'm all day Yankees. Yeah, for sure. I'm all day Yankees. If the Dodgers play anybody else, I'll root for Dodgers, except if you root for Yankees. If you play against the Yankees, you play against the Yankees, I'm going Yankees. Anyways, Will, it's a blast having you on. Folks, tonight, again, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, VT webinar. Get registered, put it in your calendar, and make sure we're going to put the link to the Will Cain Show.
Awesome.
Go check him out. YouTube, Rob, please put it all over the place so they can find it. Go subscribe to him. I've been watching his stuff for years. I just love your commentary and your view and the angle you present. And I think you do a great job. You did an interview with The Rock, I think a year ago, maybe 13 months, 6 months ago, where you asked him a question, will he be voting the same way again? And he says, I will not be voting. It looked like he didn't want to answer that question or be asked the question, but you asked it. And that was a great question to ask because of what he did in 2020 and how he changed his position in 2024.
Well, let me just, before we go, I just want to say this. I appreciate everything you're saying, and I don't give gratuitous compliments, but I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I've been watching you guys grow, and the specific compliment is, I've seen you do your interviews, you're a great interviewer, but the way you guys have divergent views on this show, you have Cuomo in, you have other guys in, you talk about me on First Take. I love debate, I love the exchange of ideas, and I think one of the few places where you're able to get that today is Patrick Bet David.
My man, I appreciate that. Appreciate you, brother. We look forward to having you back on. Gang, take care. We'll do it again Thursday. Bye-bye, bye-bye.